Hello, everybody. This is Sean Baker. I'm the writer and director of Anora. In the room with me is Drew Daniels, cinematographer on Anora, and my two fellow producers, Alex Coco and Samantha Kwan.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey guys, this is Drew. So you know my voice.
This is Alex.
Sam.
Okay, so jumping right into this first scene, we haven't revealed this anywhere else, but we actually designed this shot with two other songs in mind, thinking one of the two would make it and be our anthem. And we dropped both of those songs for Take That's Greatest Day. But here we go. We're going to reveal them.
Okay.
Taylor Swift's Welcome to New York and Rihanna's Sex with Me. And so we did about, 12 takes of this opening title sequence and 6 of the Taylor Swift song.
Yeah.
6 of Rihanna's song.
Yeah, we timed it to the song. So we timed our dolly move with the song, those two songs, double speed.
Yes.
So everybody had to do the dances at double speed and the camera move at double speed. And I think we did 148 and maybe one a little slower or maybe a little faster, 32 or something.
Yes. But we used the 48.
We used the 48. It's just more magical, right? And also what I think we should mention is this shot is kind of like on our Scout. I remember we walked down this hallway, this very hallway, and we saw the dancers in this private lap dance hallway. It was kind of what we ended up calling it in the movie. And this shot is almost like our POV on that Scout, watching the dancers in this weird curtained off hallway. And we put that in the movie.
Yeah, I remember, Drew, you and I looked at each other and we're like, dolly, right to left, ending on Mikey with the title, and it all worked out. So basically what happened was that those two songs didn't work when I got to post-production. They just didn't. They were great songs, but they no longer fit the vibe of the movie. And that's when Sam and I searched for another song. And Sam, do you want to tell the rest of the story?
Sean was saying, oh, it doesn't quite fit. I wish there was a song like about the greatest day because it's going to be the greatest day. And I just happened to be looking on Spotify. We were driving in the car and I was like, actually, there is. And we played it. It was from Take That. And the rest is Anora history.
Yeah. We didn't know at the time that it was a big hit everywhere else in the world except for the U.S. So.
Also, this gentleman is in your first movie.
Oh, that's Fred Berman. Yeah, he played Art in my first film, Four Letter Words. There are lots of cameos throughout this movie from people from my previous films.
Yeah, they're all over this, which is pretty cool. We got another one coming up pretty soon.
Right. And this sequence is our sequence where we basically just let Mikey roam the room. And Sean had her on an earpiece and we shot once handheld and once on a dolly with a zoom and just let her roam around and play the room and how she would naturally play it.
Yes. This is Paul Weissman, who played Nick in my first film.
This whole sequence for me was one of the hardest ones, weirdly, because, you know, our docu style of shooting it, I had to pretty much light the whole space. And we wanted Mikey to have the freedom to roam around and have different pockets and areas that she could go to. So essentially, like, that meant giving her the most amount of space and lighting entirely one direction, everything. And we kind of had like this Altman mode where we would go on like dolly with like a long lens and a zoom and just roam from one side of the room to the other with her. And then we did it again handheld. And I just remember, you know, we wanted to make the club feel like the club, so we didn't want to deviate too far from that. But we basically had to start from scratch and lighting it. And every single day we had to load in and load out every time we shot there, which was also extremely difficult because I think we shot there 6 days. And ideally you want to shoot there 6 days in a row. But I think we ended up shooting 2 days, 2 days, and 2 days.
That's right.
Which meant, you know, load in, load out 3 times and cut into our shooting time and made it very, very challenging for the crew.
Yeah, I mean, the club was operational at night, so what time did we usually have to wrap?
Oh, yeah, like 6 o'clock.
Basically, we would be wrapping and the employees would be coming in.
Exactly.
And you could feel them breathing down our necks.
Yeah.
You could feel them just being like, why the hell are you guys still here? You need to get out.
Yeah.
And every time.
I was DJing.
Yeah.
When Mikey was with pre-cleared music.
Yeah. we had music blasting in the club during those scenes. So therefore the music would be married with whatever location sound recording we had, which is usually a no-no, obviously. But we pre-cleared this music so that no matter what we chose in post-production, it would be okay.
And I have to say, Chris Hill is such a magician with his lighting a club to look like a club.
Drew, you always complain about the look of this scene. I love the look of this scene.
Yeah, this is my least favorite scene in the whole movie.
Why? I have to ask why.
I feel like, well, you got to have one. Yes. Every cinematographer has to have their least favorite scene, and I think this is it for me. I don't know. I felt like I was trying to do as little as possible in many circumstances because I wanted to obey the sort of natural light of this space, which meant often doing a lot. But I felt like in that space, I kind of could get away with using most of the practicals in there. And it just ended up feeling a little mushy for me. I don't know. It's just mushy. It just felt like it just was a little muddy, you know. And also, I think what's a little difficult is the club is so colorful, and then you go into the dresser room and it's just so drab and different. Like the lighting felt like it just didn't feel special, you know. So I've always struggled with that scene.
It does have a little bit of a grit, but I like the way it looks, and I love the green wall and the red.
Yeah. It's the part of the movie where I'm just kind of like looking away, and then I come back into it. I'm like, oh, I'm pretty much happy with the whole rest of the movie after that scene.
I can speak Russian. I just prefer not to, but you can go ahead and...
Jimmy, who plays...
Yeah, I was going to mention,
Yeah, who plays Annie's boss is Vincent Radwinski.
Yeah, who brings her over.
And he played Alex in my first film.
I also remember in the edit, Sean, this was a scene that surprisingly took a long time.
Yeah, you know why? Because I didn't want to do the traditional cutting back and forth, even though I covered it that way. I try to avoid shot, reverse shot as much as possible in my films. But sometimes it's necessary because, you know, it's a technique that general audiences are so used to that sometimes you kind of need those techniques just to allow the audience to really focus on character and story. And that's what we need right now. We need to really focus on
Yvonne and Annie.
Yeah.
What makes this scene, I think, for me so dynamic is the way that Drew and Chris Hill had that moving light, you know, that constantly comes through the scene. And
yeah,
makes it so dynamic.
I mean, that was kind of the big ticket item, I think, for this whole set for us. Like, as far as lighting it was probably the most expensive, but also it just did most of the work. You know, just added like a little pop of splash of color and made it dynamic. And, you know, I love moving light. I think any cinematographer loves moving light in a scene. So as long as you can cut with the moving light and maybe you can use it in a rhythmic way that helps the cut, like,
that's what happened. Yeah.
I think, it kind of almost can tell you like when to cut. It's like when you blink, you know.
And then this is a story that Sean heard from one of his friends who went to the club and the stripper told him the dancer said to sit on his hands.
Yeah. And I like that detail.
Yeah.
I love that detail.
I love this shot.
This shot we're as far back as we can possibly get. And we're in the biggest room that we could find in that place.
Oh, all of these rooms are so small.
That was as wide as we could get.
That was the 25 mil, which is basically they don't really make anamorphic lenses wider than that. So.
Shooting in the real club and everything, you know, what goes on in those rooms.
Oh my God. Yeah. Those rooms had wet wipes.
Yeah. Oh
on
my
the
God.
walls.
We're not building these
and
things.
hand sanitizer.
We are
wet
going
wipes.
to the real place.
Yeah. You don't want to blacklight.
The production office.
No.
The production office was like in one of those rooms. So I remember the line producer and my wife, who was, you know, coordinator on the film, were just sitting in there, and I was like, "You guys have no idea."
There were these monitors on the walls, and we needed to fill them with something, an image. And this stock shot of just this silhouette of this woman dancing, I had used that before on a television show I worked on. So I asked Stephen Phelps, our wonderful production designer, to figure it out, and he did it in 10 minutes and got it on those monitors.
So all this is the first stuff we ever shot.
Mm-hmm.
I love that because that shot of her on the subway was literally the first shot of the movie that we shot in our production schedule. And it was literally the most bare bones, like, hey, 4 people are going to get on the subway. And we have this 10-minute gap of time to shoot it. We're following her we're obeying the actual geography as well, which I really appreciate.
The house is actually that direction.
She's actually walking exactly to where the house is.
Mm-hmm.
And we shot as dawn was breaking, essentially. And
yeah, we had to time every shot to the trains,
train.
which sometimes meant waiting for 10 minutes or more and staging PAs on platforms and telling us when the trains were coming and whatnot. This is actually a lighting gag. Because we wanted to make it feel like in this shot, you can see the reflection of the sun kind of dancing on the wall behind her, as if the sun was coming from the other side of the track and then being blocked and giving it this flickering effect. And because you could see the train outside and we timed it correctly, and then we had, grips and electricians just waving flags and twisting flags in front of the light to give it that effect. And it really works.
Yeah. And it's also a different apartment than the front of the house.
Yeah.
Also, the security guard is our location manager, Ross Porter.
I love these shots because they kind of have a slickness to them that's a little different from the first part, which feels so verite and kind of raw. And then I think we were on a jib for those 2 shots.
Mark's sliding in with the socks. It gets everybody every time.
We knew in the moment when he did it during the rehearsal that it's like, there's some risky business in there. And, well, if you think about it, risky business has similar themes. Then we thought, why not?
And that house with all the windows and mirrors, Drew, your task was big.
Yeah, it was tough, but at the same time, there's 2 ways to think about that.
There's the scarf, by the way.
Oh yeah,
you get to see the scarf when he opens up the door. Yeah,
I mean, you could think about the windows and the reflections and everything as like a super, challenging restriction. But I tried to lean into it. And in this one shot, I remember we were blocking it out as a oneer, and we kept on asking Mikey to go over to that part of the room so that the camera could twist around, so that basically in this one shot, you see almost the entire bottom floor of the house, which then sets the stage and the geography for the home invasion scene, which happens later. And I really love that we did it in a oneer.
Yeah, me too. I think for the home invasion scene to really have impact, the audience has to understand the geography of this, at least the bottom floor of this mansion.
And I love Mark here when he runs ahead, because that wasn't in the script, and he did that. And it made the moment.
Yeah, he's so cute.
When he gets pissed that it's not made.
Love this shot. I love that it mirrors the ending too. It's like this awe-inspiring view and kind of beautiful and magical, and then at the end it's very melancholic, and it's like almost a little nod to what's going to happen.
And I like how the Voss water, she asks for water in the beginning, and then towards the end of the film, when it's the last night there, she gets the water for herself. Now she knows she's lived there, and there's all these parallels.
And those walls are made out of leather. That's not painted.
They sure are.
Butter leather walls.
Oh yeah, it was nerve-wracking every time we were setting up flags and stands, and often the camera's literally backed right up against the wall, literally touching the walls, and I was like, oh God, we're gonna destroy something. Also in this scene, I feel like some of these shots are shot at night, which is an interesting thing, because we're shooting in the winter. Many circumstances in this film, if you're not seeing the windows, the shots are likely shot at night, just because we ran out of daylight and we had to recreate it. I love that. It's so funny.
Now, this wasn't in the script until we, location scouted and realized they had this amazing television right here in this room. And then I worked it into the script. But I knew once I saw this on our location scout that it had to be held in a oneer and just watch this thing, ascend.
Yeah. And it was also really important for you to have a Russian music video.
Yeah, and that was a little difficult to nail down.
Yeah.
We got one.
I love this scene because this scene perfectly shows your cutting style, and a cutting style that we've been, talking about. We talked about it in Red Rocket. We talked about it with this film, and it's like not repeating shots.
Yes.
You mentioned it earlier, but, because you did do a shot, reverse shot, back and forth for the scene where they meet in the club. And this is, similar coverage. It's an over and a two shot and a wide.
Right.
But you never go back to the shot. Once we move on to the next shot, we're in it until we move on to the next shot, and we're never going to go back. Like this shot, many directors I feel like would want to go back to the close-up, right, of our hero. But we never really do it in this scene. I think the next shot is a two shot, and then we go to the other side of the conversation, right, on his coverage. And I just love that discipline because it shows a progression in the storytelling. It always shows that the shots are pulling you forward. They're moving to something new.
Yeah. My new rule is just like, I'm going to get even more coverage the next time out, just get as much as possible, but then stay very disciplined in the edit, and have intention behind the
not
edits.
repeat shots.
Right.
I feel like that's something that you always talk about when you're prepping a movie, and it's a thing that you always strive for, but I feel like a lot of people chicken out.
Well, I remember being pressured even on my film Starlet to like cut away from some of my wides. It's like, why? All the information that you need is coming across in this wide, and it's a beautiful wide. Why not hold on the wide? Because I think that some people are scared about, I think, general audiences losing interest or not seeing that, fast MTV cutting that they're used to in every other film, and therefore judging or something. I don't know what it is, but there's a resistance to allowing just shots to hold especially in American film. And I'm trying to battle against that.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's so much happening, like the story is constantly moving forward. So it's not like you need the cut.
Yeah. And there's a lot to look at. Like, you don't have to just be so literal and show the audience what she's thinking, because now we're looking at her face from the front. Like, even in this shot, you can feel her.
The top of the scene is more about her curiosity. Then the tail section of the scene is more about him and his possible even shame of his father and his situation. So naturally that meant start with her and then go to him, Okay, anyway, back in the club. This is a digital push, by the way. This is one of the few.
I know. Honestly, I'm okay with it, except for the framing at the end is a little weird, but
I do a few of those in the last couple of films. I just feel that sometimes like, maybe that should have been a zoom on set, but I'm just finding it now in post-production, so let's go for a digital push. And I usually try to keep them pretty subtle.
Love this scene.
Sean thought the scene was going to get cut so many times. He thought we were going to ask you to cut this scene. I love this scene. I would never ask you to cut this scene.
It's kind of iconic, honestly. Like, this is in the trailers. It's like, it's just so much juicy material in this scene.
Well, she co-choreographed this dance and then showed it to us. And we thought, okay, this is more than we originally thought. Or at least I thought. I thought it was going to be a 10-second scene of her stripping and getting on top of him.
Yeah.
And we saw there was much more there. And
when she did it,
made it into a set
amazing.
piece.
It also puts you in his shoes, like this perspective exactly is like, that's the experience, the Mikey or the Annie experience of, the girlfriend experience. And I remember you were very excited by that, and like it felt like it added to the story, and And also we shot it
It's
like a music video, here's the
All those
the-
verbs.
Comment on
the infamous phallic flare. Here it is.
I love
We're about
that.
to see it
You're right, it's gonna grow.
as we pan over.
There it is.
As we
Yeah,
pan.
it's come.
Weird phallic thing on the
The blue is so beautiful, though.
the
Yeah.
Lomos.
Well, yeah, we shot with these old Russian lenses. It just felt so appropriate.
I do have to say that watching that dance scene, it reminds me of how great an actress Mikey is, because in real life, she's so shy and kind of quiet and demure, and
Yeah.
seeing her like that.
She's like, I don't dance.
Yeah.
I don't have any rhythm.
And I mean, you watch this and you're like, yeah, you can.
I might have to work that night.
Oh no, you might not work that night.
I actually really love this shot. It's one of my favorite moments. And this and the preceding scene we shot on a jib arm, which was like a little fancy for this film. It was like we're splurging a little bit, and we shot on a little aero jib with a remote head, and it kind of made the scene a little more dynamic. And
Yes.
here we are, we're pushing in, and then we swing out, and then we push in, and now we're this super funny whip pan over to him for his reaction. We kind of just found this in the blocking on the day, and it just ended up working really well. Also, we had this really beautiful sunny day.
Yeah.
This was the morning too, right?
It was morning.
First thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like it was rare that we got this direct sun, but when it happened, it was quite lovely. And we had to shoot fast in order to capture all of it, because it's very fleeting in that house, and you don't want to like shoot wides with direct sun and then it go away halfway through the scene. We didn't have the lights to actually match that, so we had to just work fast. And I think being on the jib arm actually kind of helped us in that scenario. We were able to swing the jib around and get multiple shots quickly, and it gave it the sexiness.
Yeah.
The infamous New Year's Eve party. There was a lot of anticipation about this when we were prepping.
Yeah, this is an overnight, which is never easy.
How many extras?
We had a lot, but we were afraid that because the mansion was so big, we might not feel like we had enough, but we moved people around a lot.
Like 40-ish?
Something like that. Yeah, we moved people around.
Yeah, we moved
And
people
doubled
around.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of those lights, I'm pretty sure those lights were actually brought by our DJ. We asked him
Yes.
to bring as many lights as he has, and we just leaned into like the blue and purple. It just kind of felt right. Blue and pink, purple. It just felt right for this New Year's vibe.
And here's Anton, Maria, and Vlad, and they're wonderful. Sam found them.
Yes.
All right, here we introduce Karn and Vache.
Yeah.
Garnek and Toros.
I remember I was kind of against introducing them here, but watching it, I like it, and I don't think most people really pick up on it until like a second watch, really.
Yeah,
But
that's the intention.
I remember I was like, isn't it fun to just introduce them first time in the church? But it is kind of cool seeing them, and then seeing that they have this sort of brotherly
And then
love.
Yeah.
Garnek-
Vache's got water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This is before it all drives him crazy.
because therefore, saying that he is
So
at the present moment sober and completely relapses because of the incident.
Well, but there he's kind of checking out that girl's ass.
Of
as she
course.
walks
He's
by,
already
which
in-
is like he's in
His
character.
character,
He's
yeah.
You get those little hints,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, that was a little bit of an improv moment there, because Mark pretty much stuck to the dialogue, but then added in, do you see those Armenians anywhere? Tell me if you see those Armenians anywhere.
Yeah.
It was perfect.
Yeah, no, right?
You were right.
What?
You were right. This is banging.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Having fun?
Yeah.
Chris Hill was my gaffer on this. I've worked with him on 2 other films, Waves and Red Rocket, and here I could just feel we have this light that we call the Dragon of Chaos. I don't know why he calls it the Dragon of Chaos, but it's called the Dragon of Chaos. It's this big, like 5x5 soft light with like a spun cotton or spun wool or something over it. So like it's just the most soft, beautiful light. And we just had that, and then we mixed in those moving lights, and it just felt like, the addition of the movement and people crossing in front of lights just makes it feel more packed. It makes it feel like there's a lot of people in the room. So in that scene we're trying to get that point across.
No, it worked.
And then again here with this like golden,
So beautiful.
this gold. It's one of my favorite looking scenes. It just has this golden light. It's just one light parked inside the room, which is, usually you'd want to like a lift and you'd want to have like a light outside with gels and it's pointing in and raking through. But like we didn't have the resources for that. And also you couldn't get that in the backyard of that house. So this is literally just a light inside the room.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels, so shaped and sculpted. It feels like it's so deceptively simple and beautiful. And it's the mixture of blue and orange. And it was supposed to feel like a sunset. And they're waking up at sunset, which is kind of the joke as well.
Good morning.
So we had to time this wide shot at sunset. So at least we had some semblance of like late afternoon or evening light hitting the background.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is part of the rom-com part to the beautiful Hollywood type of movie. Her life is.
Yeah, it totally is.
I know, Drew, you and I spoke about the look a lot with this film, knowing that it was going to be different from Red Rocket and the look of my previous two films before that, Water Project and Tangerine, because those sort of have the full spectrum, rainbow look. And this film takes place in the winter in New York, and we knew that most of the time it was going to be overcast. And we wanted sort of that gray, cold look, right, for the winter.
Yeah.
So the focus was on maybe one or two primary colors. And as you can see, we decided on red and blue. And Stephen Phelps, our production designer, was very much involved. Every single shot, he made sure there were hints of red and blue. And what were some of the references?
With that scene in particular, in that room in particular, Contempt was always a big reference because so much of their apartment in Contempt is just these white or beige walls with red furniture. And essentially that room is just one color with a big accent of red. And it just works. I think it's very minimalist and the red feels strong and it gives it extra meaning, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What that meaning is, I feel like is up to the audience in a lot of ways. This shot, I remember being very difficult for me.
Well, because it was a oneer. We knew there was there was no coverage on that one. That was it.
Yeah. And you had to see it was her.
Yep.
And also she goes up and down and up and down. I was operating as well, so I wanted to make it feel like natural. I didn't want to like just be bouncing the camera around all over the place. So yeah, I
and we didn't want it to be gratuitous. So it was when her top came off, we didn't want it to be right, facing the lens.
There's an elegance to it.
What's going on?
You don't even want to know. No, Jimmy. She wants a week off. I thought you wanted me to tell him. You see the shit?
Just also with this, just with your filmmaking, Sean, like the guy in the back, you can't see him right now. There he is. That guy was just there preparing the day, like I don't think.
Really? That was our background?
Yeah.
No, he was just working in the kitchen while we were shooting that scene. That was the last thing we did. And and they were like, you got to get out. You got to get out, I don't know. That's just like a hallmark of when we make movies with you. Literally, there's just a guy working his job while we're shooting a scene.
Happens again in Tatiana's.
I love that.
All the chefs in the back.
Yeah, they were cooking food while we were just shooting a scene.
That was with our Lomo zoom.
Yeah,
which
I love that
kind
shot.
of was the lens that I think we tested, and that lens really determined the look of the film. That lens was the film, is the film.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It just has all of the character and softness and grayness that you associate with like the 70s films and whatnot. From the beginning, Sean wanted to shoot horror-perf anamorphic on Lomo lenses. I remember you pitched that to me right when you pitched the film, month before the first test, month before her going to Brighton Beach with you guys. And that was honestly one of the scariest parts because that comes with a lot of baggage. Shooting vintage Russian lenses on 35 millimeter. I think there's a tendency nowadays when you shoot film to shoot on sharp lenses because people think film is so soft already. And I really appreciate Sean challenging me with wanting to go the opposite direction and use these vintage lenses. And they also, just the fact that they're Russian, and so many of the films that have gone into our psyche and our understanding of what cinema and anamorphic is, Tarkovsky films even, like, they've shot with these lenses. I believe Solaris was shot with Lomo anamorphic lenses. So it just gave a layer of texture and soul to the project. It really was embedded almost in the DNA of the film itself to have this Russianness that I really was excited by.
Oh, so they go into a room here, right? And they're supposed to be going into the cryo chamber. And we did shoot the cryo chamber, but it was our first real scene that we shot.
That's right. Yeah.
It was like after we shot her on the subway that day, we went to this spa and shot this little dialogue scene. Well, we know historically, I always drop the first real scenes of almost every film I make. And so we should have known that was going to be lost on the cutting room floor. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
We just didn't need it.
It didn't work.
Oh, we should talk about this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Billy.
He's so sweet.
He's a Coney Island
Fixture.
local. Yes.
Yes. He worked in carnivals. He's been in Coney Island for so many years.
I love this so much. It's so random. This shot's great.
It's
We did it a
beautiful.
few times, and we had to basically wrangle those
Yeah.
calls by
Stephen
feeding them.
Phelps just
Yeah.
threw bread around.
I just love
Oh.
the camera when it's with them. Just often feels so freewheeling and like it just moves around everywhere, circles, pans back and forth. It just has this like youthful energy.
Yeah. And this is Jane. She's actually a Coney Island polar bear swimmer, and she's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Sean had found a photo, or saw her once and said, she needs to be in the movie.
Yeah.
I hope it feels as cold as it actually was,
was
when
so
we were shooting it.
When you're near the water, because of the humidity, you don't see breath. But yeah, it was freezing.
This is a great room that we shot in.
Yeah, it's a circular room, so we set up a circular dolly. I think we just pushed right on the floors, actually, which is kind of a thing we tried to do as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember being on the zoom and circling and just constantly moving, again, with that sort of Altman feel where we're just improvising with the actors. And I love it. And I also love that it's very underexposed and very bluish green purple. It's supposed to just have this kind of drug den feel to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we leaned into that.
But by day, it was the production office. We would sit in there all day prepping.
Here's Charles Jang, who plays Ming Ding in Takeout.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
another one. Yeah, and the Palms was so accommodating, letting us just shoot. I mean, like, we weren't shutting any of this down. There was the people walking in the far background and whatnot, or people at the desk. Those were just people working.
Full transparency, we lost Caesars because they read the script, and it wasn't anything to do with the sex and drugs. It was to do with the fact that they didn't want to perpetuate the idea of coming to Vegas and getting irresponsibly married.
And then coming back for a divorce.
Yeah.
So they said no. And so we had to actually scout Vegas twice. But thank God the Palms worked out. I love the Palms. The Palms is actually not on the Strip. It's about 2 blocks from the Strip, but you get to see the Strip from the windows, which
there's so many similarities between this and the mansion, like the way the TVs
gold.
are up on the gold poles.
Yeah.
It almost feels more youthful too. I feel like the Caesars just it's like old school. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's something different about
the butterfly in the back.
Yeah.
The night butterfly.
That was when we shot that shot. Yeah.
We also shot at the roulette, right? We shot more gambling.
Yeah, we
but
did.
we realized it wasn't
We
necessary.
didn't need it. No.
Yeah.
The Palms just wouldn't let us shoot any them doing drugs in there on the property.
floor.
So that's why we had them doing drugs in the
I tried.
in the limo. Yeah, I know. We tried and almost got us kicked out.
Yeah.
I love the pops of red on Annie. Just a quick note. Jocelyn Pierce, the costume designer, made sure that Annie was the only character that had red costumes. So even if there was a big call for a lot of people, everyone was asked to not wear red
Mhm.
so that the character of Annie would be the only one wearing red.
Yeah, and you get this great view of the strip, and this pool is incredible. Such a amazing location. And then this
So
is the
something
scene
like
where
this.
This is the scene where you try to get them to talk to the table.
I took out a prop for them to, as if they're passing around a bullet of Coke or whatever, and the representatives from Palms were like, no, that's not happening.
They shut it down.
Yeah,
fast.
they were there watching us like hawks.
We had to play dumb.
We actually shot that in a live restaurant. Where we just went in.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We shot the whole scene in like 15 minutes. I remember we went in.
Mhm.
Chris Hill had a light on a boom pole. We basically set the level, sat them in the right spots.
Yeah.
And basically just rolled. I think we rolled probably like a mag or half a mag.
Yeah.
It's just we were in and out.
Mm-hmm.
I love that in this room you can see all the Vegas lights
Yes.
in the background.
This is my favorite scene of the movie. I don't know why. Just
I remember
so central.
I remember Sean, you pitched right when we were about to set this scene up. You're like, I think we should just do this in a oneer. We should, it's a circular bed, which you can't really tell in this shot, but
No.
it is a circular bed, and that's why we're able to, in a circular motion, half circle motion, go around the bed. And you pitch it as a oneer, dollying slowly around. I'm like, well, shit, I don't have any curved dolly track. I don't have anything. And it was carpet. So guess what we end up doing? We end up just pushing the dolly right on the carpet. And it's like me and Steve Forbes, who's like one of my good friends in LA, who's a grip, and he was key gripping and running the dolly, and so Forbes is pulling the dolly, and I'm kind of pushing it along and sort of regulating the speed and operating, and I'm walking along with it, and we had to light it from above. And I just remember it being like, one of those like indie moments where it's like you have big goals, big dreams for the scene, limited resources, and you just go with it. And I love that it, has this arc to the scene as we come around, and then, it kind of feels claustrophobic in a way, but then at the end you reveal these gorgeous city lights behind her, and it just feels like this magical moment that heightens the scene, what's actually happening, this proposal.
Yeah.
Don't fuck around.
I'm not fucking around.
And it feels like Vegas. You can tell we're in Vegas.
Yeah, it's like up to this point where you start feeling the lights, it almost feels like it could be anywhere. And
Exactly.
Then it has this magic. And
Yeah.
it almost feels like this growth in the scene, this arc, this natural arc to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look at the color back
Yeah.
there. It's so beautiful.
And the 2:3:5 aspect ratio really works wonderfully with allowing her, to see their full bodies on these side shots. Very Contempt.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say that was one of the big takeaways from Contempt was the compositions and using the anamorphic to frame the body almost as this like landscape. It's almost like if you look at her knee and like the way her body and then her elbow, it's almost like a mountain landscape or something, like it just feels landscape. And that was something that they did really well in that film. And one of the takeaways, I think, from watching that as a reference.
I'm just realizing now the shape of the lights is very similar to the shape of the lights in the car later on, which is so beautiful.
Yeah, it's that anamorphic, it's just, it stretches the lights, the bokeh, the out of focus light stretches them in a way that just feels really cinematic and magical. Yeah, this is your favorite shot,
Alex,
Coco.
this is my favorite moment.
I mean, my heart races when I.
Well, that's the thing. Like the Greatest Day song. Not only did it when we found it and we threw it on the opening title sequence, it was like as if it was written for the film.
Yeah.
And then here as well. I had already started the editing of this montage, I believe. And when we put Greatest Day on that first shot of her sitting up, again, it was as if it was written for the film.
And that's our art director taking photos in the foreground there.
And that's kind of against what you do normally, like using non-diegetic music, right? Like I feel like you generally don't do that.
It's
so you kind of broke your rules in this, for this circumstance.
Yep.
This is a true Sean Baker moment here,
Yeah.
where we have
Just out on
characters
Fremont.
who are just out.
You can
there.
see me too.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think I'm
Right.
Oh,
see
you
your-
already
your
passed
van.
me.
Are you
but
sure?
Yeah.
Your Vancouver.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in a
Valley
hoodie
already.
and you're like hunched over looking at
I'm running
a monitor.
by with my monitor.
There you are.
Oh no,
There
there
you
I am
Yeah,
on the
there
left
you are.
there with a van, East van.
That's you.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm walking away because I saw myself in the shot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and this is an LED ceiling that runs the length of like 3 blocks on Fremont Street.
And we got all the fireworks, which
Yeah.
is perfect because
Well-
that's like the 4th of July.
Well, we
America.
asked them, right?
No, I know, but
yeah.
but we shot more when that wasn't happening.
Right.
You know? When it was other things like a
Yeah.
fish globe or
And all the people they're interacting with were just normal, like real people that we just had to get waivers for after the fact, right?
Mhm.
They were
Yep.
just
some of them, yeah.
they were just people on the streets.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I really like this scene. It's very tender and
At
Oh,
first, this was
pretty.
edited a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
Before we come back to the Greatest Day song again, there was there was a whole scene with her sister.
Yeah, tons.
There was
Yeah.
a lot. And there
Oh,
was
I
the
convinced you to.
"Will you
have a
kiss
box.
me?" You had dialogue.
That was a long
Yvonne.
battle.
There was
Yeah.
You wore me out.
essentially
Almost.
we saw Annie leave. We should put that on deleted scenes, I think, where we see Annie essentially leaving her home and her sister questioning what she's doing.
Mhm.
And then another scene with dialogue of them out on that balcony that eventually turned into our helicopter shot, but there was more dialogue there. And so there was more of this in between stuff, scenes playing out
And
before
we
the
just
music came
montaged the
back
shit out
in.
of it.
And then you guys told me I had to be more disciplined with my edits.
Yeah.
Jealous, honey. Jealousy is a disease. Remember that time? I'm just gonna shut my man to know what.
And Luna's leg goes up.
Yeah, boom. Again, that was like
This was a scene.
perfectly timed to the Greatest Day.
Yeah,
As if
this was a whole scene.
yeah,
Mhm.
this was a whole scene as well. Yep. Yep.
The fur was a
Yeah.
whole scene. That guy was great.
Yeah.
Not necessary.
this stuff works so well as montage. Though.
Agreed.
It's like
Thank you.
This was a whole scene.
We did one take here where then she drops on her knees, falls out of frame.
Yep.
oh, here we come. This is honestly one of the craziest shots in the whole movie is the helicopter
After shot.
with Alex Coco in the helicopter
Yeah.
screaming into a walkie with our guy,
Yeah.
our operator Moose,
Mhm.
who's zooming, and then the helicopter starts moving. He's handheld,
Door was wide open.
doors open.
We had one
he's-
strap across our waist.
It was a wild, wild day. Me and Sean and the crew are inside watching monitors. At the end of the day, we didn't know if we had the shot.
I don't want to belabor this, but it was such a mess. It was like Drew, Lisa, our AD, Sean, like giving notes, but not everybody had a walkie. So like you guys weren't relaying exactly what you wanted. One person would, and the other person would just say something to somebody else and they wouldn't relay it. It was chaos, but we got it.
It all worked out.
It all worked out. Okay, let's just set the record straight. Toros is not a priest. He's the godfather, and this is what you would wear, but he's not involved in the church.
And actually, getting a church to sign off on having Anora in it was actually kind of challenging because we would have to show them the script, and it was a little difficult for a church to say yes.
I love these two shots too because the film almost just takes on an entirely different tone and identity here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're in this like wild style film with these like kids, and then all of a sudden it almost feels like a gangster film, and especially as we keep going and going, it's like the film comes to a screeching halt in a way. You know, all that energy is kind of sucked out of the room, and then we're here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very sobering. And then with her worry now, with
Yeah,
something going on back home.
Originally, weren't we thinking of even possibly putting the title of Anora before the church scene? All the way,
yeah.
all the way there was where the title
It's been a
might
long
have been.
I
Yeah.
forgot about
Yeah, like
that.
Drive My Car, I guess.
yeah. People would have been like, "What the fuck
Yeah.
is that?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Это же хорошо, правда?
Yeah, this shot, I just love it because like their eyes kind of like are on the edges of the frame, the eyes and the mouth here. And it's like, it's almost like uncomfortable in a way.
Yes.
They're like just on the edges.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. It's weird. And I feel like it definitely does something, you know?
And this is a different Annie, too. Less makeup, more her.
Yeah.
And also her just in character, her,
Talking about personal things.
Yeah, and speaking Russian.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, this is a big Russian section for her.
Yeah, and the whole film just kind of quiets down here. Before it's like the calm before the storm. Which I always really liked that. You know, watching in theaters, you can kind of feel like it creates this tension.
Mm-hmm. And us not being Russian speakers per se, all the subtitling and everything, we had to rely on a lot of people. We were working with a lot of people to get those right. And last minute, when we were running prints for this film, we noticed that a few were missing in the scene.
Yeah.
So we had to go back and cut B-roll in for the print that went around the vista. And we fixed it. Photocam's help.
Having so much subtitling was very crazy.
Oh, I don't want to do another subtitle movie.
This is actually the start of the real time, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Because that was a time jump right here. Obviously, Garnick had to go and pick up Eager or have Eager pick him up.
And just so it's clear too, Yura is driving. You know, every single person in this film
It's a hood mount.
is driving. Yeah, it's a hood mount. But we were in the van just in front of them. But I don't know. You know, I just call that out because some people might think, "Oh, is this a?"
It's not a process.
Yeah.
You know,
Pretty much all the driving stuff we did, we had actors driving.
I love it. Yeah.
Usually the camera's in the car, but this was, just the classic
We had
two-shot.
one process, right? And that was
I think it was the
end.
vomit scene. wasn't it?
No. When they
No, they were driving. Yeah, they were
No, I think we
driving.
towed. You're right.
No.
We did because we had to throw snow out of the van.
We were throwing. Yeah, but they were driving right behind the van, and then we were just throwing.
I thought we were.
No, they were
that.
towed.
They were towed.
They were towed.
Don't
This,
remember that.
the
But
snow
I
drive.
love this shot.
Me
though,
too.
I love this shot because it just feels like a classic gangster movie. Like
Mhm.
even the palette, the type of car it is, it reminds me of like The Godfather or something. And these two guys just smoking and mentally preparing for the weird scenario that they have all these. They don't even know really what's going on.
The
But I
twist,
love the reflections.
Yeah, the twisting of the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like winter. You could, the bare trees.
Love here that he takes the time to roll the window up and then this like low angle shot. It just, there's a certain gravity to like what's about to happen just by those two shots, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like you feel an importance, with these characters, like they're about to change the whole world for these guys.
Just kind of adjust himself.
How do we do the boner gag?
It was a dildo. That we
Yeah, it's a fake thing under there.
A strap on?
Yeah, literally, it's strapped on. Literally.
Yeah. It's a good gag. Always got to have a prosthetic penis in there somewhere.
I love Mikey's eyebrow raising there. It's like, the hell's going on?
Mm-hmm.
I love what happens here because most people probably won't notice it, but like basically when you're shooting, you have to choose a side of the line to be on.
Yeah.
And here in that dolly and pan, we cross the line right there, so that we're now basically our backs are pinned up against the mirror. But it was way better for the light and for the depth in the room and for the action of what was about to happen. I remember it being like kind of a confusing thing when we were shooting it, jumping over and swinging the whole world around just to.
But we knew we had to be on that side.
Yeah, and it just because then you were looking out and you had the whole room instead of looking back at the mirrors for the rest of the scenes.
I love the angle on Mikey though too.
Yeah, the low angle.
Yeah.
I love this because it kind of goes against normal protocol. Like for a character in this circumstance, in the scene, so much of the film ended up being about power. Remember we talked about like power dynamics.
Yes.
And the film is essentially about power. And to show her in this low angle, almost hero shot, where like her whole world is about to be stripped away from her, there was something to that about the opposite of
and
it.
I think it's because you get to see her eyes a little bit more, and it shows the vulnerability and the fear in her eyes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know it goes against what we're told is, proper framing for a moment like that.
But it works so well.
Yeah.
And then Yura having his hood up, and I remember he was very insistent on that. He wanted to kind of
he wanted it on during the drive.
Yeah,
but if that happened, we wouldn't have been able. It would have just been there. Wouldn't have been enough light or something.
It was like an exterior, like manifestation of his performance, where like he slowly is like revealing himself and his full vulnerability at the very end of the film, which. I don't know. It was so great to work with an actor who was like thinking that far ahead about their wardrobe.
Well, that's the wonderful thing. All these actors were very involved with their fleshing out of their characters and just wanting to know more and more.
This was like the first thing he did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I remember when he says, "Congratulations," and I'm eager. It's like, we all cracked up.
We knew he was going to be wonderful, but then just seeing that, it was just like
that was the click moment for me.
It's just so magnetic.
Like, whoa, this guy is going to bring it.
Congratulations.
Love that frame of Annie too with the red behind her.
Yeah.
It's just like,
and that again was very much very calculated.
Yep.
Stephen and I were trying to figure out the exact placement of that blanket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it throughout the whole film has a presence.
I love how it switches to handheld here, which just kind of just this like off balance sort of feeling.
Yep, and that's Karen's wife next to him there.
Yeah,
because there's so much precision. We wanted this scene to have a lot of precision to it, and this whole sequence essentially, and have an arc.
Now this is one instance where we probably overshot this. Well, we definitely overshot this.
Yeah, but we were worried. We wanted to make sure.
I wanted so much coverage on this. We could have a short film about a day at the Armenian church. I mean, I got close-ups of like basically every single person in the congregation.
We had 2 cameras too. That was like the one time we had 2 cameras going.
We really overshot.
Yeah. I think you used one shot from that second camera.
Well, you're happy about that.
Well, it always felt like such a one camera.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I love this, the double reflection here, and Annie brings us into this. It feels like her perspective.
And then Igor realizing that he has to come back at some moment.
So sorry. Excuse me.
We blocked this out, obviously. Everybody had their marks, but I think the actors are all so seasoned and professional. You can watch Euro where he knows, okay, I got to be here in the frame in order to be more impactful. Right here, he steps into frame. Boom.
I love this shot.
That's such a cool
too.
spot. Yeah, all that negative space.
Yeah, it just felt like, echoing what he's going through, just with this weird composition.
Mm-hmm.
Also, in the script originally, there was a back and forth from the church to the house in Russia.
We were trying to figure out where we would shoot that, knowing we would never be able to actually shoot it in Moscow.
Mm-hmm.
But thank God that we just
it was so unnecessary.
Yeah, the reveal of them later is so much more impactful.
So much more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm embarrassed that I even had the original first draft.
Yeah, but sometimes you gotta just.
And it's good to know what the conversation is.
I actually, if you look at the first draft, which thank God is not published, the one that's out there is pretty much the shooting draft, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the first draft is very overwritten. I sometimes have heads and tails of all of these scenes with more dialogue. And I think that works. It's embarrassing to show it to my casting crew, because sometimes I realize after the fact it was overwritten. But
then they have the information.
But I think for actors it works because it gives them more material to put in their head.
Mm-hmm.
Even though that was serendipity right there.
That
woman walking by gives us that little hint of red that we probably did not have in that scene.
I love the crash zoom too. It just feels like,
to
me, like a crash zoom like that just gives some like levity to the whole film.
Right.
It's
funny.
A film that does that is not going to totally take itself 100% seriously. And I think the audience enjoys that.
And that was the shot. We knew that was scripted, that it was going to be that zoom in. And that's probably the reason that we pursued the Momo zoom.
Yeah. It just feels. I love that shot
intended.
too.
Yeah, this whole section, I remember when we rehearsed it, it just worked.
It
like
just
raw.
It
like
starts
just,
to feel more chaotic,
Yeah.
even though it is quite controlled in like the blocking and the camera placement and language. It's moving around. We're a little bit of a longer lens. Like people are bouncing around, and we're going from Yvonne to her and back, and she's kind of caught in the middle.
Yep.
And I just loved the sort of blocking of her being caught between these two forces and how the camera ping pongs a bit.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on?
And for the Taurus driving, that took a few days, actually.
This is on Stillwell right here where they shot French Connection.
Yep.
We tried to get multiple days, and there was even a part where he almost hit some people, but we didn't need it because it was so tense already.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, and you kind of want to keep this feeling of him going.
Keep on going,
The
yeah.
movement, right? This momentum. I love that part. Poor Vache. He's just caught. Everyone's caught in the middle of this thing they don't really understand.
Put me down to the city hall.
It's fun. There's a certain objectivity to like some of these moments like this shot, just sitting kind of
Yeah.
wide and watching people bounce around the frame. Yvonne comes up to the foreground.
Yep. And Karn was upstairs on the other end of the phone when we shot this. One of his first days, I think, actually.
I also love that there's so much. It's quite cutty and there's a lot of movement, and then to just hang in a wide shot for as long as you do there, it kind of almost builds up this like anticipation. Like it's almost off-putting in a way, you know.
And how could I cut away from Mikey at that moment? She is so funny in that wide.
Yeah.
But we are going.
I know. I love the way Mark,
I love that shot
his
too.
Russian English.
Yep, that's all Stillwell on the reflection there.
Yeah, it's our French Connection homage there with
Yep.
it's like Gene Hackman following the Frenchman underneath the tracks on the
Yep.
subway, right? Like it's literally under the same tracks.
It's the same tracks, yeah.
This was a tricky moment.
Yeah, this
I
is tricky.
remember.
Mm-hmm.
Just the cutting.
Mm-hmm.
It worked out great though.
Minor reframing in sections.
But I just love that almost like we found like the stairs just being like a natural barrier because of course she'd want to go like
Yeah.
she can't just go outside. It's winter. She doesn't have clothes on. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck out of my way!
Oh!
Fuck out of my fucking
Stunt double.
fucker!
But
Do not fucking touch me!
No. Why?
Love this shot.
Ivan!
I love that you cut him off there too. That's
Yeah.
great.
What is happening?
Continues.
Somebody talk to me.
It almost makes me feel dizzy, that shot where Taurus is.
Well, that's him actually getting on the freeway,
Yeah, oh my God.
right?
Why?
Нихуя себе.
There's a certain energy and like bounciness to the camera work that I just love. This is the camera just pushing right on the floors, you know, like in this whole scene. I think just about everything in this house is pretty much camera just right on the floors. So it has this roughness to it.
Yep. This is all real. This is all our two actors.
No.
And then how she managed to
How she
kick
does
that.
that,
Yeah, that's-
I
Yeah.
don't even know. I said, I
She's such a
remember
pro.
telling Mikey, I was like, if you can, please try to kick that vase. And she does it blindly.
I also love, I gotta say, I love that little shot of the phone because
Mm-hmm.
there's kind of a rule when shooting with Sean, like
Yeah.
there's no cutaways, there's like
Well, it has to be a
inserts, like
Yeah.
nothing.
I
Really
don't like
that.
inanimate objects.
Yeah.
I like humans in every frame.
Well, even wide shots, there's no establishing shots that
Yeah.
don't include your characters.
No.
So
I can't stand B-roll.
the argument for that was that, well, Toros is on the other line and you can hear him on the
Yeah.
phone. So we're like,
Mhm.
well, and it also kind of was a fun
Yes,
move
we
and
moved
it made the scene dynamic. And to kind of put him in context there, that he can hear it as well, was kind of a fun thing.
Yeah, Sean always wanted to make sure Taurus didn't get lost.
Да потому что она ебанулась тут. Она расстроилась, начала прыгать по всей стороне. Что он должен был делать? Игорь, ты чё, блядь, вытворяешь, брат?
This was always meant to play out in real time, knowing that I think it was approximately 20-something pages in the script, so we knew it was going to be over 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It clocks in at 28 minutes, actually. And then once she gets gagged, it's about another, 4 minutes of real time after that.
That moment always gets a laugh right there, where he tucks the phone in neatly behind her.
And that was Yura.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So
he
Those little things Yura does.
yeah. He has so much care with everything he does.
So this is your Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a few of those moments in the film where I'm like, oh, yep, I'm nodding to Texas Chainsaw right here.
Yeah, that's Leatherface pulling her back into the house. Right?
Yeah.
Yep. I love
Yeah.
Doesn't do anything.
And your idea for that was the cat that bites someone, right? The wind up of
There's a
her
meme
head.
out there that there's a cat that winds up and then just bites their owner. And I showed Mikey that meme. I'm like, that's what I want.
Yeah, so good.
this was, I think, the most challenging scene of the whole movie to shoot in many ways, because this is 8 days of shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Every morning basically we start pre-light, and then we'd have to wait for the sun to come up.
Yeah,
Have
we'd
enough-
call it like 4 a.m. so that
Yeah.
we were ready when the sun came up.
Yeah, we'd have enough light, and then of course it's winter. The sun would set super early.
Yep. And then our special effects guy for the breaking of the glass nailed that. He the
Oh,
glass starts to bend just slightly before he
explodes
detonated
it.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe like a frame. I mean, it is a millisecond.
But it was perfect.
It was incredible.
He did it. He didn't do it too early.
No,
he did it just too
Yep.
late, almost.
Yep.
It was so perfect.
Она сломала мне нос, кажется.
Yeah. I'm glad I broke your fucking nose.
You fucking bitch, you broke my nose!
Time I'll kick you on the fucking balls. God, let me go.
I love that moment too, right here. Where,
Yeah.
oh yeah, let's check in on Toros here.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the editing of this, Sean, the balance between staying with them in the living room and moving around was really important for you, I remember.
How long did it take me to
This
do?
took a long time.
Like a month.
a month. yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Maybe even a little more.
Yeah.
Now
this-
again, there's a lot of procrastination during my editing, so who knows
but-
exactly how many hours.
But it-
But this section took the longest to write. It took the
Yeah.
longest to edit.
Yes.
Because it was
also to shoot. It was definitely the thing that we shot the longest in in the production. We had to add days. I think we were 4 or 5 days we were supposed to shoot it. We added 2 or 3 more. We had to add days to the house. Constantly just reshuffling and renegotiating with the owner of the house to try to get this whole thing in the can.
Oh.
Yeah, I bet you like this, huh?
And fortunately, we had great weather throughout. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was pretty damn good.
we had consistency.
Yeah, it didn't
Comparatively.
start pouring rain or
Yeah.
snowing or do something where we would visibly be able to see a difference outside.
From the fucking gate.
I gotta say, I mean, the weather was constantly changing. I
Well,
think
okay, yeah,
The,
the
hardest part for
clouds.
me was keeping that consistency.
No, that was hard. I just mean extreme weather.
Extreme, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't storming.
Yeah, the sunshine.
It was
clouds
kind of in
coming
and out
That
of
was different.
sun the whole time, but we wanted it to feel like a cold day.
Mhm.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
like here, it's overcast, and then the probably 2-3 shots earlier was sun, but just because of the way it's backlit, you just kind of don't notice it.
Mhm.
So that was the
Yeah.
hope.
Right.
This was the big day where Sean decided to move around all the dialogue, and Karin had learned all of it and
Yeah.
was freaked out.
Yeah,
But he's amazing.
it was about 6 hours of re-blocking, re-rehearsing, and just losing the day.
There's one little moment that I lost there that I loved, but it drew out this moment a little too long where Toros looks down and goes, "This is Galina's favorite
Oh, yeah.
table. She got it from Paris."
That's right. Yeah. Stephen Phelps found that table and we swapped the glass obviously to shoot with it, but to break it. But such a crazy, amazing piece.
Switching into handheld with the arrival of Toros was always like part of the plan.
Yes.
With like the sort of visual arc of the scene and the tension and whatnot. But I think it worked out so well. He brings this like chaos,
right,
into the film and also just into every scene. He has this energy.
And then near the end of this, when they start to negotiate, that's where we get back into lockdown, controlled, and some dolly moves there, right? Or some jib arm moves.
Yeah. We were able to like basically light the scene, 360, rely on natural light. So like I really like that the camera just kind of ping pongs, using him as our anchor point and swinging and and then it could just pan over to Vache or go back. And, it had a lot of like freedom in this scene to just kind of play with the rhythm of it.
She's an animal, bro.
No, you guys are fucking liars.
Okay, listen to me. Where is your phone?
As with Red Rocket, this was a one camera film. There was only one day where we had a B camera, and that was the day at the Armenian church. And one of those shots ended up, it's a wide shot towards the end of the scene. But I do think that single camera and me operating is a very important part to our approach and our recipe in filmmaking. It ends up making me feel more connected to the actors, more connected to the storytelling, and I can follow my intuition a lot better if I'm at the camera. If I have to articulate something on the fly through a headset to an operator, there's just too much distance and also just brain power. I'd rather just respond in the moment. And as an operator, I honestly think that I'm probably a better operator than I am at anything else. And I really like the sort of chaos and intuition and a little bit of the messiness even that some of the operating has. I think it kind of plays into the spirit of the film. And I think a lot of operators tend to want to make things perfect. So, if I'm actually the one doing it, I can be like, no, that was good. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, and I personally love your handheld operating. Obviously, every operator is going to have their own style just because of their physicality. The way they hold the camera, the way they breathe, the way they literally move.
It's
from right to
absolutely
left.
everything.
Yes,
it's
yeah.
everything. Every little micro movement you do, every instinct you have shows up.
Two consenting adults who got married legally, and there was nothing
You keep, just kind of cutting back to Yura occasionally. And
Yeah, I mean, that was in the edit.
hard balance.
That was a hard balance. And I remember in the first cut of the film, I held on Yura perhaps a little too long and maybe even had him look over to Annie.
You did.
And
yeah.
that was everybody's big note that we were showing our hand there.
You
Kind
could
of know where
it's going to go.
Yeah, where what Igor might be thinking and where it might be headed.
Customers?
I love my husband, and I plan on being with him forever.
We did not overshot. I wish I shot more, to tell you the truth. I was beating myself up in post about my coverage, especially on Karin. But I remember the note coming in from you guys, you two, Alex and Sam, were like, Olivia Kavanaugh, our line producer, is questioning why suddenly the shooting ratio has shot through the roof. Right? I mean, we definitely shot more
We did.
for Home Invasion than any other part of the movie.
Yeah.
Well, because you knew that you would need a lot of
we
coverage
could
to be able
never
to edit
break.
it.
Yeah, there couldn't be any continuity errors, and we had to stay in real time. So,
Well, every time we rolled a take, it was a whole mag.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a long scene, and we would just let it go.
But it balanced out.
Yeah.
Some days we shot way less.
I think this was
especially
probably a
prior.
day. I think we probably shot like 18,000 feet this day, or 20,000 or something.
Yeah. Well, we thought we were doing so well. We were like, oh my God. We were reporting back to our financier. We got all these savings. We're shooting so much less film. We're
Yeah.
going to save all this money. I mean, we knew that probably would change, but we were just trying to stay positive.
But we also know with our shoots, we don't have the budgets and things to go do pickups and get those same locations. And so we have to make sure that we get what we have.
That's fucking hilarious. Arrested for what?
Sean, he's his own editor. And so when it came to things like the crawl or even the amount of, how many times Annie and Yvonne even have sex, like there was one point where he just said, I just want more, more, more. So that just in case I need it, you remember like in terms of more clubs, more dancing, more friend stuff, even if we didn't end up using it, we had to try and get as much as we could on very limited time still.
Especially because there were segments of this film that we knew were montage.
Yeah.
And so it was often, we never wanted to say quantity over quality, but quantity was
You did
prioritized.
say that.
Yeah, you did say that
out
once.
loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said quantity is quantity.
I would also say we don't overshoot. I feel like almost everything we shot is in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are very few setups that are not in the film. Maybe you cut entire scenes like here and there, little small ones, but overall, like we don't overshoot. I think we're pretty economical.
This stuff is so good.
This is Zahara's property. Shut up. Shut up.
I love the close up there.
Yeah. And like we were talking about before, Sean doesn't like to repeat shots. So you're right. Everything is used.
Shut up. Она кусается.
This cutting of this scene is probably my favorite in the whole film.
Yeah.
They're all running around.
Oh, I love the lens flare.
I love
And then
this.
this is Europe,
Yeah.
all Europe. Where he looks like he's about to explode. That was just brilliant.
But he suggested it to us.
Yeah.
He was the one who pitched it because we were trying to figure out the crescendo there. What would get us to that hard cut? We knew there was going to be the hard cut to her gagged. So besides, we didn't know if her screaming was going to be enough to get us there. And then Yura was like, well, let me scream as well. And wow, to see that happen, where he gets louder than her and the veins popping and him becoming so, totally red.
And his
it was
mouth
wonderful
is
to
so
watch.
big.
Yeah.
His mouth opens up like
But yeah,
huge.
I know. That's the thing about Yura. It's like, he's like, I'm going to try something. And you're like, okay. And then he does that. And everybody's just like.
He does it later with the burger. too.
Yeah,
I feel like he's
it's
got that
amazing.
Huge mouth, and he just puts that whole burger in his mouth later.
I mean, yeah.
I love this shot of her too, because I feel like this is one of those key references for the film almost. Like we based so much off of that shot of her there. Like
Yeah, I mean, the test
red,
footage.
We
that's
tested
what we did.
it. Yeah, we did a test in Burbank where we had her with a red
months before.
scarf and shot her with Lomos on film, and
Yeah.
it was the very first time I met Mikey. I remember that being really informative because, we didn't have a ton of time in Brooklyn to do a lot of testing. We did one in Brooklyn, but I think
more just did it.
That really I think we really discovered a lot of the look of the film in that quick little Burbank test.
Oh, yeah. Because, it was like overcast too that day and everything. So
yeah, and we had her there gagged with the red scarf, and I was like, oh man, I can't wait to shoot this. And I remember when we actually shot it here, it just was like, oh, it works. It becomes like the film.
Because he's a spoiled brat that doesn't want to grow up.
Big time.
And now we're in this mess that we have to
Love this composition here too, with everybody in the frame and Yura sitting on the
Sculpture's head.
Sculpture's head, yeah.
Yeah.
He almost looks like a sculpture himself.
There's definitely some spaghetti western framing going on.
Totally.
Once upon a time in the West, with like all of our characters spread throughout the 2:3:5 aspect ratio.
Toros just takes command in this scene.
Yeah, it's one of the only times too here on this, and probably the next shot where he's laying out the terms and you push into him, and it feels like almost like a Hollywood like moment, like serious subjective Hollywood like classic push in.
I love this shot.
I love this shot too. This feels like a very giallo or spaghetti western type of shot, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. going down to her lips and then back. It's just
And shout out to Annie Johnson makeup, who just made her look perfectly disheveled.
also just Mikey has these amazing eyes.
Yeah.
And just holding on them is just such a powerful shot.
And Annie knew,
This moment.
what to do with Mikey's face. And,
Yeah.
There were,
You gave her a reference.
We gave her
to a
references,
smudged
but-
mascara.
yeah, but it was found.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just like the first thing, apply makeup to Mikey and get this. No, we had to figure this out.
Mm-hmm. She's
I
so
love that
great.
moment when she says "fine" because she's got like kind of other ideas a little
Yeah,
bit.
she's not fine with it. She's
Yeah.
essentially lying.
Mm-hmm.
Her motivation is just to find Yvonne and then figure this out.
Yeah.
This is such a fun moment too, because it's like a serious moment, like a breath where we're just with her. And this is on that Lomo zoom. But then you added we basically turned it into a comedy scene here at the end with this brilliant physical comedy moment
Yeah.
of there were a lot of moments like that. I feel like we always added to the scenes and made them better and better and found comedy in them.
Mm-hmm.
Classic entourage
Yep.
shot here.
Now she's in her wardrobe.
The reveal of her real name.
Annie. It's
Mhm.
Annie.
It says Anora.
I know, but I go by Annie. Thank you.
Okay, get in.
Что, я все?
Да какой все ты с нами, пока не найдем его? Садись.
I think I was driving that cleaning van in.
Good timing.
I think our extra was doing a horrible job, so I had to jump in there.
You are the
Yes,
fucking
get in the front.
psychopath.
I don't want to fucking sit
I'm
next
not
to
getting
you.
back there with you.
Unfucking believable.
Клара, иди сюда.
This is a
The wonderful
beautiful
Elena.
shot.
Mhm.
Love this shot of her with the reflections. And I remember I was setting that shot up, Sean. You were like, I had the window down, so you had a clean shot of her, and you're like, no, let's put the window back up and let's get these. Let's see what reflections are there, and we put it up, and it was just magical. Just one of those things we found.
This stuff was so hard to shoot.
It was
because
very hard.
Sean insisted that the car was moving the entire time, and we're in traffic in Brighton Beach.
Yeah.
There's
And there's a red
traffic
light right
lights,
here. They kept on hitting the light.
yeah. I think he slammed in the brakes. I don't.
Yeah, no, this was real.
That was real,
He
right?
Slammed
Yeah.
on the
Used it.
brakes for whatever reason. I'm
Yeah.
not sure, but
So we
then
just-
we shot the reverse.
Yeah. I think Sean. It was starting to rain.
There
And
you
that's
are,
Sam.
Sam.
There I
That's
am.
Sam crossing the road.
Yeah. We
That's
need
how we
them a
motivate her.
reason to stop.
Yep.
Little old lady in Brighton Beach.
That's me.
Yep. I think we had to convince Sean that we could use that last take a little bit.
We had a little bit of,
It was stressful.
yeah, and a little bit of continuity because it rained.
So
Yeah,
Sean
exactly.
and Sam were actually staying in this complex.
We were.
In one of those buildings on the right of frame, right? I think.
We were in Brightwater,
Exactly.
and I always felt like I was going home to Eager's apartment or Eager's grandmother's apartment every night.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
the double train shot. That was
And
important.
figuring out these NYPD blockades took so long. Why was he
Why,
parked
yes.
illegally?
Mm.
But we saw those all over the place, and
I love the framing, and I remember I think
Sounds-
Sawyer kind of found that frame because it just made sense to frame in the whole cyclone. You can't cut the top of it off.
Oh yeah, no,
But it
we
meant
wanted
him-
it. We
but it
needed
meant
that.
him cutting them off in this at the waist, which just felt like it's not a cowboy. It's not a what even is it? It's this just kind of artsy composition, and it's so cool.
It's almost
Beautiful.
Abbey Road.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was thinking totally Abbey
It's
Road.
iconic. It's such an iconic
We
shot.
we had him put it on low mode on the Steadicam in order to get
yeah.
to see the name Cyclone on the top.
Yeah,
of it.
and I just remember he couldn't go any further back because then
No,
he would have been
we were-
crossing light posts and trees and stuff. But we
mhm.
wanted a clean shot, so
Right.
that's kind of what we ended up with, and it was just one of those It's just a beautiful, beautiful shot.
This is Williams Candy Shop, which is actually not on the strip.
Mhm.
It's one of the only geographical cheats in the
Yeah,
movie.
it's not on the boardwalk. It's on
some
Surf Avenue.
Surf.
Surf, yeah. I think it's Surf.
Yes, and the
'cause
thing
Surf
about it
turns
is
into
that
Brighton Beach.
I always want to stay geographically accurate just because I want locals to appreciate these movies, but no one has called us out on this one.
No, I mean it's right there. It's right next to Nathan's, so it's It's not far from
And
where we were shooting.
our amazing production design team redid all of this with breakaway glass.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to shatter these things twice. I think we did two.
We did.
We did.
This is our
2
last
takes.
day of production in New York. This was our like 18-hour day.
Boink.
This was a hard day.
Cool, Yvonne.
I love how she just charged in
Yeah.
after that. It was just amazing.
Yeah, I love when she tosses the phone here too.
Yeah, that finger point though was something I remember Sean was very
Right here.
specific on.
Yeah, because it was like on the third take. I'm like, try it one more time.
He
And
said,
just-
"Do it like this."
And yeah,
you
and just
did it.
charge at her with your finger
Finger.
extended, and she did, and I was like, we got it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you're eating the popcorn in the background.
blowing off the glass.
Such a funny thing to do. Yeah, blowing the glass off. That's
That
Okay.
zoom shot.
yeah.
See, this is again like how a zoom like that can just
Yeah.
add levity to a movie.
This shot took so long. I think we did probably like
Not only did it take
50
long
takes.
in production, it took long in post production
Yeah.
Yeah.
because we had to clean up the skies
Yeah, add
and
birds.
add a bird.
You wanted a bird. Yura's throwing of the baseball
He
bat.
wanted cotton candy, then he didn't. I was running back and
Oh,
forth
yeah.
between Williams and the boardwalk,
And there
getting
were-
more cotton candy for
Yeah,
Sean, and then
and there
Sean
were-
peeled the cotton candy after I'd.
And there were pedestrians
back.
to the right and left of the frame waiting for us to complete the shot.
Yeah,
It was
Yeah.
a mess.
total mess.
For some reason, that shot took more than
Yeah.
It was harder to get
Now,
than any other
from,
shot.
From here, this is all just this place is open. You know,
Yeah.
like not just
This
the
is all-
patrons.
yeah.
We brought her in, but everybody else
Like these are real cooks in the
cooked.
background.
They're
here.
making food for the restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drew and I were what we were doing. Went down to the kitchen in the back.
Yeah,
the
Masha,
basement.
she's an actress.
Drew.
Masha's
Okay,
an
I won't tell the
actress.
story.
Yeah.
I love her
Yeah.
like once over when he starts to hit on her, and then she looks
Yeah.
at him and like she's charmed by it. In the back here, I love Vlad's performance too, where he's asking him to bring it down because he's gonna lose his job.
I love like in moments like this where this kitchen was like 4 feet wide. It was insane, but
Yeah.
because we're shooting widescreen anamorphic, you're able to squeeze like 4 or 5 characters perfectly into a frame. And I feel like there's so many moments like in that shot. Look how many people. It's our entourage. You know, the film becomes an ensemble piece, and there are countless frames where they're all squeezed into one composition. It becomes this ensemble film, and I don't know. This is the perfect format to shoot it.
Mm.
This was all live,
All live.
real Brighton Beach Russian locals.
Yeah, it was one of their nights where they have like a DJ and it's an event and they spend money to have dinner, and we crashed their party, and they weren't too happy about it after the second or third take or so.
Yeah, I remember Karin saying like, "Okay, we have to be done because that guy said he was going to fight me."
Yeah, we did like three. We did three takes.
Yeah,
And so these are all 3 cut out. But I have to tell you, the energy was in the first take
yeah. It was the
because
first time.
it was only we knew what was going on.
Yeah, but he's also showing them a photo of Yvonne in the bathtub with legs over him, which
Yeah.
is pretty
but-
hilarious.
But also operating it, like there's something magical too, because I didn't know what was going to happen. You know, I'm just following him as if I was shooting a documentary, and there's some. So I think there's something special with take number 1 when you're shooting in that fashion, because unpredictable things happen in the timing, you're surprised, you're just reacting in real time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a sort of magic,
Yeah.
unknown.
I love the next shot coming
And then-
up.
I lived in that building back there on the way back, right off the boardwalk.
I
You
was-
see it a few times.
I was surprised there was even an image on the negative when we shot this. to be
Really?
honest. I feel like this is probably the last take we did, and it was so dark. It was
But-
so
yeah.
dark.
Yeah.
When we
and
went
this
through that, it
move
was
here
beautiful.
was just me saying, okay, let them pass. And that's why I think we lose focus for a second
For a
there because it
second.
wasn't planned.
But it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
this moment.
It's one of my favorite shots.
Mm-hmm.
And it really does show the distance between Coney Island and Brighton Beach. You know, Tatiana's and, the Astroland. It really does show that trek would take a while.
Yep. And this was all like so last minute, deciding to shoot this scene here. I think we lost the other location. Again, this was our last day. We shot this too on the last day. But the whole freak show murals and everything, the woman who painted it, she gave it permission, and we saw the film and she was very excited by it, which was cool.
Yeah.
Because
And
it's such
that's,
a classic Coney
I love
Island.
Mikey's face.
That's Sebastian Canelli, who's playing
Driver,
and he's a comedian, podcaster, and I found his stuff on Instagram and thought he was so funny and so New York that I asked him to do this. And he took this little line of mine here where I just, where it was scripted, fucking Russians, and turned it into fuck you Russians. It's just something that a comedian would do. And it was just
Also the
really,
train in the
really
background
funny.
here.
Oh yeah, we had to
Timing
time
that.
that.
Yeah.
Every time we see a train, it's timed.
specific.
Yes, that is true.
And that was a moment where the train was not coming that frequently.
No.
It was like
That was
middle of the night. It was like every 20 minutes. So you're sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting.
And Karin had a lot to do because
Mhm.
on action, he had to go and
Rip around the corner.
fast enough so that we were getting that train in the frame. He had to remove his tie. He had to talk in Russian, English, and Armenian.
Yep.
He had his hands full for that shot.
Этого не видели сегодня?
Oh, billiard hall. There is a billiard hall. Remember 5 years ago you were teaching him how to.
A lot of these scenes, like the gaming place that you just saw previous to this, like that's all. We just like kind of crashed that place. You know, this place we crashed, but I think the gaming place was so last minute.
Yeah.
That might have been the day out.
I think the night of. I think
Yeah.
we just sent our locations person just go see if we could come in 10 minutes.
Yeah, these places were open. These are real patrons, real people, real light. We weren't really lighting any of those. It just.
Yeah. I wonder if billiards is still open.
No, we shot the night it closed.
I know, but then they stayed open.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
You sure? Я подожди, спрошу.
These are all restaurants that we all ate at, and
Yeah, we tried to generally be like here. We're across the street shooting into the restaurant. The same with the pizza place. Like we're trying to be as low key, and often people didn't know we were shooting.
like that woman.
But she doesn't know.
She doesn't know. I think afterwards we got permission.
yeah.
But
Yeah. And then here we had our production designer in the back, just pumping all that puke out Rache's sleeve.
I love it because it's the real light of New York that you're seeing
Yeah.
too in all these scenes. We're not, putting huge lights and backlighting the whole, blocks of the streets and pumping tons of light in there.
Oh, this gas station
It's
attendant.
great.
So I found this location just like night of. Like we lost the other one because there was a lighting issue where we couldn't get the power or something like that. So we were at the diner shooting, and I just drove around until I found this spot. And then they just let us shoot it. And then this guy was there, and
Yeah, the gas station attendant was
Yeah.
a recent immigrant. And he was like, but I've always wanted to be in a movie.
Yeah.
And so we just said, yeah, be in the background. And he gives us that wonderful little moment where he puts his fingers up to his forehead as if he's,
Yeah.
shooting himself in the head. Like these guys are morons. And he gives us that little moment that's just like full of color.
Oh, have you seen this guy today? Yeah, the guy from our automation.
Where?
20 minutes ago.
Just now.
Isn't this the same club? I think we're shooting like all of these shots literally.
Pretty
in the
much.
same
That club.
Exactly.
it's that
We-
club right there.
Yeah.
The same club had like 3 different rooms that looked all drastically different, and we would
Yeah.
just light them differently, choose a corner, and
Make it a different club.
therefore in like
Even Vegas.
a couple hours, they did the same thing in Vegas. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we'd shoot in like 2 hours. We'd shoot like 5 different club locations. It was
If you can do it,
we were trying
get
to
away with it,
amass. Yeah, we were just trying to
it's-
amass this huge quantity of like places that he could have gone to that night and just make
yeah.
it feel like this very in-depth crawl. We call this section the crawl.
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the most important things in production, not just in the film production, but in production in general. The fewer company moves, the better.
Yeah, unless you can push move or something if you're close by. But
Which is worth a lot more than mink.
Конечно, мне стыдно. No, don't talk about that, baby.
Like there, we're back in that same club, I think, right there. We just set up a different room with a different
And this was just on the street on the last day.
This was
remember?
right by
the
tow truck.
Yeah, we just threw this
Yeah.
together, this line. Like there's no club there.
Yeah,
There's no
I
door
think
there.
Chris
Hill created
created that
Yeah.
green
Yeah,
glow.
I just threw up some lights.
Yeah, that was the last day. One of the last things we ever did because we needed something, or Sean wanted another piece.
And you guys were trying to tell me, no, we didn't need another piece. I'm like, no, we do.
Well, no, you wanted like 3 or 4 more pieces.
You wanted more clubs.
And we didn't need those.
I'm looking out for the editor and me. I'm sorry.
I know, but we had a lot. We got.
I love this.
Yeah,
this is what
this
reminds me of the Vegas.
Might be my favorite shot in the film.
Yeah, that's, I think, the 100mm Lomo. Just
So
magical lens.
Yeah, and this just dissolve into the song, into the club.
Yeah, this has like a surreal quality to it, right? Like,
Yeah.
The reintroduction of Yvonne.
I think we did a couple of takes and we realized on the second take that to keep it soft and allow, on HQ and allow a focused Yvonne to enter frame.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a good diner. We had to change out all the lights.
Oh, yeah.
To these little orbs. The day of, our production designer had to change the lights and then change them back.
Mm-hmm.
Spent all night there. Took hours, but it's basically the only thing lighting the actors here. It's just those orbs.
And this diner was, we had this half of the diner closed, but the other half was like still open. You could come in and sit down and eat while we were shooting this. Again, guys, don't waste money.
I don't think we've ever fully owned a location.
No, don't waste money doing it. People listening to this who want to shoot a movie, like just, as long as you have like clever sound editing and, you're being careful with your coverage.
Speaking of sound, the music in the diner took Sean a long time. He wanted
my God.
Winds of Change.
I wanted the Scorpions' Winds of Change to play the music version of that song to be playing. And it worked so well. It's just that it was I think first off, it's so expensive. But then we found out afterwards that the Scorpions will not allow music versions of their songs played in anything. So,
and that, that emergency vehicle going by was just serendipity, a lot of things like that.
That happens a lot in my films. There's either a fire truck or an ambulance or a, police car with flashing lights that just adds. It just adds.
And you add a lot, like even like sometimes you'll, like the window here, not the car that just passed, but I know there's some light here that you'll take from other takes.
Right.
Just to give
a few of those shots
dynamic. Yeah. A few comps. So you can always mix and match, even if you don't get it on the right take. If you're
the magic of modern post.
I feel like when you shoot the way we shoot, though, the film gods shine down upon you.
They always
with regularity, because you're not taking forever to do things. You're moving quickly and you're responding to some of the magical opportunities that happen.
Yeah. You just have to be open to that. And I think on other shoots, a fire truck will pass through the frame.
You'll stop.
And they'll say, cut.
Yeah.
Do it again. I'm like, no, that's what I want.
Yeah,
I want this.
You can use the sound of the fire truck.
Right.
As long as you see it, right?
Yeah, as long as you see it.
Yeah. And then if the actors have to speak louder because that's what you would do in real life. Right. And maybe it even makes it better. So it's these happy accidents.
Yep. There's another thing that people don't really talk about. It maybe it's just me. I don't know. But there, one often talks about suspension of disbelief applying to the audience, but it also applies to me as the director and the editor. There's a certain amount of like artifice that I just can't take and I can't accept. And so when background real life is happening behind our actors, when real life, these happy accidents that are going on and sirens and stuff like that, that helps me as the storyteller believe the story I'm telling a little bit more than I would have. And so I love that stuff because it helps me remove or for the suspension of disbelief to kick in a little bit quicker. Yeah. Oh, and that American flag, that was there. That was always part of the diner.
So
we just loved it because it was a very patent moment.
38th Street.
I fucking love that place.
I love the red glow you gave there.
Yeah. Well, there was this sign off camera that you couldn't see that was very red. I was like, well, let's just go with the red.
Yeah. Sadly, we didn't shoot the shot where he like pulls out of the diner. Remember, goes over the curb and like, tears down the street. But we ran out of time, and
They have to physically hold him, like grab him really.
I don't think he's.
I love that, her dropping into frame.
Yeah, Sally Walker's song was a.
That was a crazy
Short.
shot to get right there. That's like Ross driving, right? Ross driving his truck, and we're shooting out of the back of Ross' truck. Ross Broder, our locations manager. He had this amazing truck, and he's like, "Oh no, we've done it before. I've done this before." And,
Oh yeah,
and it was geographically it made sense too, and it was very important as like. Also, it's just these glowing orbs of light. It's perfect. It's like very cinematic.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have a heart attack. Bonnie's upstairs in a private with Diamond. Who the hell are these
I
guys?
love this too because it kind of almost feels like a mirror of like when she leaves, and then she's so empowered, and then now she's coming back with this entourage, and it's very different.
Yeah, we see the whole
and the Slater song really works well here.
Slater song. We reestablished the geography of the space.
He's still looking at women.
So good.
Where is one of the rooms?
Yeah.
Oh, the magic doors.
Yeah, a lot goes down in that club. We're not being in it.
That guy's reaction is amazing.
I know.
He looks scary.
Yeah, he looks scary.
He looks like a fucking mobster.
And we actually shot this all during the day.
Mm-hmm.
And this scene, was really just about keeping it chaotic on purpose. I mean, like this is really, it had to feel messy. It had to feel gritty. It had to be in her head, just, the chaos that's going on, the confusion that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
All of that craziness, the edit of it was very meticulous.
Yep.
Took
a long time.
Took a while.
Yeah.
Also, I can't reiterate enough how tiny these rooms were.
Yeah, it's so small.
How many people are in this room? And it's so small. And
You were at minimal focus.
The camera's at
all the
minimal
time.
focus. Yeah. I'm smashed against the corner where the bed, the couch is cheated out. It's crazy.
Yep.
I think we probably had diopters on the camera too, which help you focus even closer.
Mm-hmm. Shooting in real locations. We're not rebuilding these things, guys.
We did make this a pole room, though.
Well,
we installed the pole.
It was actually Mikey's pole that she practiced on.
Yeah.
That I would go to her apartment and break it down and then reset it up for the end of the day. We could shoot with it. But yeah, there wasn't a pole in this room. But that was it. We're not building this like on a stage or anything like that.
This room was cool though because it had that little hallway that kind of leads to. It's like a T-shaped room. So.
Yeah, and this was one of those rooms where there was we tried to see it a couple times when we scouted, but there was a guy in there for like almost like 24 hours or like longer. Or something.
Yeah, they told us we couldn't on our first location scout there. We couldn't see that room because there had been a client in there for close to 24 hours, spending approximately $50,000 or something like that.
Yeah,
they were like, "Nope, that's not happening." He takes priority.
Yeah, it was the biggest room. So. And Drew actually suggested DMX here.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was Ivy Woke.
Really?
No, you guys wanted it. No, I
remember Drew said DMX.
I suggested, I think, a different song though.
Okay, but it was DMX.
But you guys wanted an anthem, right? Like
Yeah.
Like an anthem.
Yeah.
But it was decided early on because it was from the original.
It was very early on.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we were just driving around scouting and we were playing songs in the scout van over and over and listening and.
Yep.
I think I pitched maybe the Rough Riders.
Oh, yes.
No,
That's a good one,
Stop,
too.
drop.
Oh,
that
okay,
one,
yeah.
yeah.
Maybe that's what it was.
There's Momo.
Well, you hear those songs in those clubs still, even though some of those songs have been canceled.
Yeah.
You still hear all of those songs in real strip clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is them pretty much fighting.
Yeah.
And we didn't, going into this day, I feel
this
like
had to be shot so quick.
So fast. And because Sean wanted more lap dance shots, he wanted more, shots of them looking for Yvonne. He wanted more lap dances, like just to fill out the montage stuff. And we spent so much time on that we shot that so quickly.
Yeah.
And we really didn't know what it was going to look like, I feel like. we like had an idea, but
Yeah, it's messy.
it's so messy.
I really like that moment of her too. Kind of drop down the
Mhm.
bottom of the frame.
And we're jumping everywhere too. This is just to break the fourth wall here. We went from, that's probably shot in Coney Island.
I think
That's-
mostly it was shot like in Manhattan.
That's shot in Manhattan.
yeah.
Ura's stuff is shot in
Well,
Coney
this
Island.
scene we had to piece together.
Yeah.
This
because
was
we didn't-
Frankenstein.
We didn't get it, and we had to go back, and it was like
We didn't get as much coverage on the nighttime driving as
That was
we wanted.
Manhattan.
well, because every
there.
time we had to drive into Manhattan, then we had to drive back to Coney Island, and it was just like just took a lot of time, and driving is always hard, no matter what you're doing, because it gets overcomplicated.
But I love the way this turned out because it is very gritty.
Mm-hmm.
It's the grittiest section of the film, I think. And that works for what's happening in the moment.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love how Yura always
Yeah,
finds a
people
way
comment
to
that.
get into her frames.
Mhm.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
also later on at the courthouse, after they come out of the courthouse, he's always kind of in the background of her frames.
Mhm.
You know, when they're about to get on the airplane later, he just had such a good instinct.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, he's such a pro.
Yeah. And them pulling up, we shot last thing on this day with the courthouse, and we had him drive all the way around and pull up like half a dozen times. And we ended up not even using the drive up.
Yeah, that was tricky because I think we had to shoot.
We had to shoot
We had to shoot the day
morning first and then night.
Mhm.
And then,
Yeah, I think we literally just had to wait
we had to
for
wait.
it to get dark, and then we had to light up the front of the courthouse.
Mhm.
Yep.
A funny thing, we had hired extras to be like a wedding couple being photographed on the steps,
And they didn't
and the
show
wedding couple showed up
They showed up.
and they took our costumes.
Yeah.
Like they stole the costumes and never came back.
I know.
Oh,
It's
that's
the
right.
weirdest
That's
thing.
what
They
it
just
was.
left set.
Yeah. They left set in our wedding costumes and never came back.
They went and got married, I think. We put them in the mood, I guess.
This is Tom Trupnikov, who was in my first film as well.
Mhm.
And he's actually from Coney Island and knows Russian. He's Russian American. So thought it would be perfect for him to play the lawyer.
He was great.
Yep. Oh, and then that siren sound at the background.
Oh, yeah, that's real.
Yeah,
But I
exactly.
loved it.
No, I know.
Mhm.
That's another one of those things you just use.
Like helicopters in Florida
Yeah,
Project.
use what's there.
Okay. And who is this? Him we're gonna need. Okay, I don't know what that means.
This next shot is a really fun one too.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Full entourage,
Yeah.
It's amazing rotunda.
The low
super
angle.
wide lens,
Yeah.
low angle, just rolling on the floor. I think Chris Hill literally he was like
Yeah.
rolling a big light right next to the camera.
To me, this is always like a superhero shot.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you want to keep working for Zakharov family or not? Oh,
And then another one of your former actors
Yep, Michael Sergio.
Prince of
Who
Broadway.
also plays a judge in that film
And
too.
the co-owner of Cabu Pictures with Ashul Baghdadi, who originally released Takeout back in the day. But Michael Sergio played the judge in Prince of Broadway as well. So I like to think it's the same exact judge.
Yeah, yeah. All these years later.
Yeah.
This was probably one of the most fun scenes for me to shoot, just because of how chaotic it was, and
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of the camera movements were quite improvised, just like that, just panning over
We're
and then
responding,
panning back, and we're just responding to what's happening naturally. And it's kind of one of those scenes where you just run it multiple times, following different characters, and just piece it together. And it just worked out so well.
Yeah.
I think we just shot it from like two different angles, one from the front of them, and then one kind of looking back over Karin.
Yes.
And it just pieced together really nicely and has this chaos and naturalism to it.
We
Yeah.
did it like probably 10 times.
Yeah, 10 times. I probably rolled 10 bags 10 times.
Yeah.
Just,
And
They're
just let it
so
go.
funny.
just allowing him to go, and sometimes being a little more, broad in some takes, going over the top is what I meant. Like there was one take where I think Yura threw Mark over his shoulder and marched out of the courtroom.
Yeah, and Mark says, "God bless America" or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
But this also was a bit of a splurge for location. but it's so good.
It's so good.
Sometimes you're like, oh, you gotta
You
shoot.
used to be able to get these
This is
courtrooms in the courthouse downtown for free.
Yeah, well,
And Law
Not
and
anymore.
Order destroyed that. Law and Order made it, yeah. Oof. When I shot Prince of Broadway, it cost nothing.
yeah, but
Now
we
it costs us a ton.
we had to shoot here. Like, we thought about
yeah.
shooting somewhere else or like faking it or doing the interior somewhere. But yeah, sometimes you just gotta know where to put your money.
So now we're gonna go to your
Yeah, that's what I heard. Law and Order shot so much there that they were like, guys, you've taken advantage of us enough. I'm
Makes
sorry,
sense.
we're starting to charge.
Yeah.
that you
Makes
to
sense.
Vegas without my permission.
No.
This is not my
No,
fault.
we are
Get in the
we are
car.
so
Get in the
So-
car.
I'm not
Okay.
getting in the fucking car. We're fucking done here, and I want my fucking.
Poor Garnet.
Ticket this, that's it.
Mhm.
Vanya, you don't have to get.
What's going on?
Get out of the car, okay? You don't
I think
have
this
to-
is brilliant blocking right there with Yura stuck in the middle of
Mm.
this argument, and his reaction just plays throughout the scene and right there. It's just
Mhm.
such an uncomfortable.
Yeah, and the way he's
Position.
staring off.
It's yeah.
Yeah, you're a.
And when Yvonne says here, we just have to see my parents, we have to talk to my parents, Eager knows that's not going to go well.
hmm And then also just, I keep saying this, but like, you see people in the background, cars driving by, bicycles, like, this is not controlled, like, we're safe on the side of the road here, but everything was just
In the car.
shooting in the real space.
Right, Vanya? Right?
Get in the car.
This was a tricky edit too, because it's such a pivotal moment where
Yeah.
people have to believe why she would continue on this escapade with them.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to mention our wonderful post-production sound. John Warren and Andy Hay.
Your show sound.
Yes. They are worked with them on Red Rocket and
Andy on Florida.
yep. And I really love what they brought to it. We were playing with a lot of diegetic to non-diegetic use of music, but I brought them up here because of that moment that we cut to silence, essentially, right after she gets in the car, and we cut to them driving in onto the grounds of the airport. It's rare that you go to almost full silence in a
Yeah,
mix.
no, yeah, definitely. They always told me in film school not to do that because then people think the movie's over.
Right.
This is a VFX airplane. I only pointed out because we probably went through like
We went through a lot of
40 versions of that plane.
airplanes landing.
Landing a certain way and certain sizes, a certain speed.
I love also this whole sequence, but it's the way it builds up the arrival of the parents.
Totally. Karn is so great.
It's like a classic, almost like a Spielberg sort of like a thing where you're like show everybody's reactions
Mhm.
and you're pushing in on them and you're building it up with reactions and then you see like the dinosaur or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It builds a certain level of expectation and dread.
I do believe that Karn, the Toros character, really carries a lot on his back for that, because you can see he's terrified.
Oh, you feel it. And then this shot of her arriving, it's pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of what we were talking about earlier with power as a key dynamic, I think this shot and then this next shot where we're like, or not the shot, but the one after where we're laterally tracking with her and looking up at her, there's a certain...
But seeing her coming here too.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
And
I remember
she's about to bring it.
when we first were location scouting here and seeing those wonderful fans on the roof of Zen Flights, we were like, we knew that tracking shot was going to happen from day one.
That's right. It took a while. We looked at a bunch of different of these private airports.
Alexei Serbakov, who is
Legend.
a massive star, in Russia.
Watch Leviathan.
He may have been a little apprehensive coming onto this picture because
This ragtag picture.
Yeah, but also because it's essentially a cameo.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a ton of dialogue for him, and he was questioning his
When we zoomed with him, he said, "Why do you need me to play this part?"
And when he said that he wanted to be looking at his phone a lot because, he cared more about the business than, this family drama. And over the Zoom, I said, yeah, that's wonderful. Be in the phone the whole time. And he loved that. That's what convinced him to come on board. There's always a little bit of stunt casting here and there. And in this case, we're building up this character of this powerful Russian oligarch. Oh, who's going to play this? Oh, well, wouldn't it be interesting if sort of our biggest star was playing this oligarch? And he is. He's, as Alex said earlier, a legend and has been in some of the biggest Russian productions ever. And
Robert De Niro of Russia.
Yeah.
Is what
And
a lot of people threw around.
Yeah. For those who did know him, his already famous status kind of works hand in hand with, the powerful idea of the oligarch.
And Sawyer did all this steady cam stuff.
This is Sawyer operating steady. Sawyer Aubrey.
Remember, he had to go upstate to see his family.
Yeah, he came.
It was an added day.
And then had to bolt and drive hours away upstate to meet his family.
He hung in there with us.
And he did it.
I know. We asked a lot of him. So
he,
thank you.
He really did a good job, especially in the club where he's just walking backwards, full speed on that wide lens and holding compositions just perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
There was the reference to The Night Butterfly. The only time it's said in the film.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's in Russian, obviously, and it's an old term for prostitute.
Yep.
I think this is a good moment here to show the power dynamics too, looking up at Mark.
Mm-hmm.
And then on this reverse, again, having him in the background and also in the light. I think there's just like this weird poetry to that. And it's just kind of that we just kind of found. It just kind of happened just like so naturally. But I think you could derive a lot of meaning from it if you really read into it. But we make a lot of these decisions on the fly and you don't think about all these things until you maybe, watch the movie.
This is where Mark becomes a villain, his character.
Oh, yeah. I think also that shot where you see him earlier, where you see him close his eyes and just totally wimp out, and like talking to her and confronting her.
Yeah. 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 I mean, he's doing it, but this is the most confrontational.
This is brutal.
You're just like.
Also, procuring private planes on an indie budget is not an easy thing either.
No.
You would think it would be, because you see the influencers doing their stuff every day on private planes, and
they're using sets a lot.
I know,
but for us, it was all like when these planes were in like transition.
Mm-hmm.
They would like land in New York, and the next day they were going to Miami, or later that day or something, and we would have we would basically get a little small window, $50,000. Just you know what I mean. It was a lot of money though.
Mm-hmm.
It's like crazy, just to have access for 6 hours. It's not cheap.
And we actually used 2 different planes for this, right?
Yeah, because it's spread out over so many days.
I think one of our planes just had to go.
Yeah,
right?
it had to go. So we
Literally
had to get a different
leave,
one.
So we had to shoot the rest of it in a different plane. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Sean, wasn't a lot of this part like improvised?
It wasn't improvised, but it was rewritten the night before, because in the original draft, it's really cheesy. I can't even believe I'm saying this, but she drops to her knees. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
And it was making Annie very weak in this moment. And I think we had 2 days here at the airport, right?
I think like 2 or 3.
And it was after the first day I said, oh, no, we can't go there. So I rewrote it. So yeah, everything to do with prenup and all that was written the night before, and I'm so happy we went that way. It gets a cheer when that can.
Everyone thinks that
people
that's where we're going.
Clapped, and it really showed they were rooting for her.
I know,
just to shatter their dreams seconds later, but still, I think we needed that. We needed that moment of strength from her.
I know,
and because in the moment of like true realization, like no, there is no future with this guy or this family.
Yeah.
And for her to say that instead of her just falling to her knees, that was, but that's part of the process with making these movies. It's like seeing it evolve and seeing it flesh out catching those problems, catching those hiccups and those mistakes that were in the script and having the luxury of being able to rewrite last second. I don't think that happens on many films, especially when the writer is not, or the director is not the writer.
And the editor.
So imagine that, I would have had to then contact the writer and go through the WGA to allow us to rewrite, to allow us to make changes to a script last minute. It never happens. So,
no, I know. Yeah, it's very streamlined, but the fact that you're able to hold so much of what we're shooting while we're shooting it, and then know how that affects things coming up, and it's a lot harder than you're making it seem.
And I love the power dynamic between the character of Toros and the parents.
Поблагодарить вас.
У нас семейный совет, пожалуйста, не мешай сейчас. То есть ты считаешь, что это нормально? Все, что произошло, нормально. Как ты вообще попал в Вегас? Я не понимаю.
Here you always mention how the windows behind her look like butterfly wings.
Yes. Love it.
And that flare across the front of her, it's like kind of a weird magical shot with the two guys also cut off.
And we did run out of time here. We had to get out of this plane for whatever reason. I forgot whether we were going over or we had to catch the sun or something.
I think it was the light.
It was the light. This was the one time during production where Mikey and Yura both said to me, we really, we want another take.
Yeah.
And I had to say, guys, if we do another take, we're not making the day.
Yeah.
Sorry. We got it. And they were so disappointed. I remember seeing their faces and I was like, I don't want to let you down, guys, but we got to move.
Yeah. And you said we have what we need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did.
Yeah.
We did.
Fucking pathetic. You're a pathetic motherfucker.
Блядь, ну...
The image on the monitor was put in later in post and to show pretty much where they are. They're over the Great Lakes now on their way to Vegas.
It's all popped in.
I hope that's clear to the audience that that's vodka.
Yeah. I think it is clear liquid.
And this was found in post because originally I was going to go out on Mikey, but I thought that was such a wonderful moment with Karen.
Here's our Easter egg.
Oh, here's the Easter egg. Yeah.
I guess we should
Top
reveal
left.
Top left.
Strawberry made it to Vegas.
That's Alex's idea. Alex, thank you very much. The billboard was there and we were like, right. And then you said we should put something in the billboard.
And we wanted to do a nod to Red Rocket.
Yeah.
So Susie agreed to lend her image.
Yep. Drew shot that.
Strawberries.
It was supposed to be for promo for Red Rocket. We didn't use them. Remember?
Oh, was that one of my shots?
Yeah, it was one of your shots. Yeah. So Strawberries, fate confirmed.
Yeah. And
This was actually shot in New York.
This is all at the
Zen Flights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The production design team over the weekend transformed it. It was just a white walled room with like pretty much nothing in it. Like, it's if you pay attention to the front lobby area where they're, waiting for the parents, it was very much like that, like metals and leather. And they
even have a sign on the door. When they open up, you see that it's Battleborn Divorce Center or Marriage Center.
And we did this just to clarify because of schedule, because we weren't able to go to Vegas for certain reasons. Towards the end of our production, we had to stay in New York, and we were going to lose Alexi. Yura had to go back for another production. So
Mickey O'Hagan is a New York actress.
Yeah. So there was a lot of reasons why we were just like, all right. So yes, all that stuff outside in the parking lot, that was actually just some random strip mall that I think I called like one of the business owners and was like, hey, can we shoot there? And they just thought we were like a nothing production. Just said, yeah, sure. So we just shot that to make it look like that was actually in Vegas behind the Strat.
And you can see Yura's double. We had a double for Yura, right? Just
In Vegas.
The guy wearing his sweater, and he just kind of crosses frame just a little bit.
Yep, that's right.
I think because it's a low angle, you just kind of see like part of his body.
Yep.
And actually, Anton is playing Alexi.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's got the jacket on.
What? Did you not?
Yeah,
Very ragtag.
Hmm.
yeah. I know.
And this stuff is pretty, this sticks to the script. I don't think we improvised in here. Oh, you know what? There is a little bit of improv where Mark says goodbye, America at the end.
Hmm.
Is this my
Yep. I'm pretty sure we shot this like at night. Like this is the last
Oh,
thing.
Oh, this
yeah.
was definitely at night.
Yeah, this was at night.
I think we had every light off the truck just blasting into the blinds.
Mhm.
He's hitting right there behind them, the wall.
Mm-hmm.
We did everything we could to just make it feel like Vegas.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. This was like the last stuff we shot at Zen flights. So
Thank you so much, ma'am. You're very welcome.
Goodbye.
Them getting into the car too, wasn't that Zen Flights?
That was then.
That was
Yeah.
outside of
That
Zen
was-
Flights
yeah.
too.
I think that was shot like there was almost no light, and we just had a light out in front of the car here. This shot.
This is
there.
Zen Flights
Yeah.
still.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
New York at Zen Flight.
But then
It's
what's
freezing.
cool is that the smash cut to the reverse of her
It's
is Vegas, and she's passing. It's way overexposed on purpose, obviously, but she passes the Little White Chapel,
yep, we just barely got that. I feel like so we,
and
just got
there's the,
camera up and
Little
started
White
rolling.
Chapel.
Yeah, we barely got the camera going,
Yeah.
and I don't think we like really had time to circle back. So we just kind of just kept going.
Yeah, and there goes a layer of Igor's outfit.
This is one of our stage days. This is a fake domestic airplane. In New York, you have to shoot on a stage at least one day for the tax credit. So this was our day.
Sean loves babies on airplanes,
Yeah,
which is why
It's his favorite.
this was necessary. He had said there has to be a crying baby.
The things that I can't stand in real life, I love in my films.
Yeah.
So like Bad Weather, hate it in real life, but I want it to be, I want to shoot in it.
Mm-hmm.
I love the transition of that shower scene.
Mm-hmm.
I love that moment because when she reaches out, just kind of tells you there's someone else in the room. It's like, what is she doing?
Hmm.
This might be my favorite scene in the movie. I
I
gotta
love
say.
this scene too.
And from a cinematography standpoint, it's probably one of the most understated. It's just so simple, and the lighting is so simple. It's just the TV light just kind of undulating a little bit. I just love how elegant it is, and I think there's an elegance about this film that I really like.
Well, we finally are really calming down here.
Mm-hmm. I think the audience needs it at this point.
Yeah.
You've gone on this ride with her and sitting with her in this moment where they're just, how many different things do they talk about in the scene? I feel like it's like 5 different subjects. It's just like a natural conversation just flowing, and
TV on.
The birthday, the name, and then eventually the assault.
Yeah, for the bruising, the skin.
Mhm.
But also, it shows such like a passage of time and how they've kind of like gotten closer together, like, or at least like familiar with each other, where they can just hang out and like in their pajamas and like smoke weed and watch television on the couch together. It's like,
Well, I love the blocking too of how you're the shape of him lying there.
With his arms up and
Mhm.
over. Yeah. And there's very little improv here except for his trying to tell a joke. You're too crazy.
Yeah.
No, you're too crazy
crazy.
too. Yeah. And then him saying, "Oh, it's not funny." That was his little bit of improv. And I love it.
mm-hmm.
I think what we're saying is there's like an intimacy to
Mhm.
this scene. Even like the way they're shot, like they're connected in the frame. It's very dirty
Mhm.
over them, and they're just sharing cigarettes and talking. I feel like you're kind of rooting for that, and also you kind of want to decompress with her.
Mm-hmm.
And your name is better.
No.
But what does it mean?
In America, we don't care about that kind of stuff. We don't.
So we're not the first film to have our actor light up 2 cigarettes for the actress. Now Voyager, which is a 1942 film with Bette Davis and Paul Henreid. There's a famous scene where this happens. And it's interesting that we do this the same year that A Complete Unknown has essentially a reference to that film, Now Voyager. They go and watch the movie and watch that scene.
Mm-hmm. Also, initially we were told we weren't allowed to show cigarette labels because the Surgeon General will send a letter, to cease and desist letter or something like that. But we did it anyway. But it's important.
Really?
You remember this?
No.
Yeah, it was a thing.
But it's important for Sean because the cigarettes that characters smoke tells us something about that character.
Yeah.
The type of cigarettes that they would smoke. So it's sort of silly to start putting in fake labels and stuff. And also like the cigarette, it could be white, it could have a tan butt, it's like
Nobody smokes Marlboro Reds anymore, and I wanted Mikey. I wanted Andy to be smoking Marlboro Reds.
No.
No, exactly.
I remember when we shot this too. I feel like the second we wrapped, the whole crew basically sat on these couches and watched the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we watched the Eagles and the Chiefs. I'm the Eagles fan, sadly.
Yeah, who won that game, Coco?
I think that game didn't count.
They have that in the BTS too.
Yeah,
But yeah, we lived in this house. We were in this house for so long, and this was the last.
Such a comfortable house.
This was also the last scene we shot in the house, isn't it?
One of
the last scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, it just felt like this winding down, and before we kind of hit the road and then went on the crawl. But
yeah, I remember it was long in this house. We added days, but still it was like so comfortable to just come to the same place every day, like know where to put your backpack, know where you're gonna eat lunch. And
my napping room.
Your napping room.
Oh,
and then we were kicked out onto the street, and it was just like always outside, always on the road, like we talked about earlier, moving in and out of HQ every so many days. It was rough after that.
I feel like the filmmaking almost mirrors that sort of energy.
Yeah.
We're very classic here. We're on a dolly, gently moving, very elegant. You know? And then when we're out on the streets, it's like, all right, sticks rolling, and then zooms, handheld. We're just doing it.
Yeah, and from a production standpoint, it's like every day you have to be like, okay, so tomorrow, where are the trucks going? Where's the parking? Where's everybody eating lunch? It's just,
Yeah. That mansion was wonderful because it had the whole basement, and that was our holding essentially, right? That was where craft services was. That's where things were prepped.
Yeah, people would just sit to stay out of the way so we could be more intimate on the actual set.
Raped?
This whole thing was complicated. Yeah,
that was a pickup.
It was
her
a pickup,
coming from the refrigerator.
Yeah,
I knew it. I knew we were never going to be able to go back to the mansion and do any pickups. So it was like the last day, and I was like, guys, we don't have that angle, and we really need it.
And it was one of those days where we were like, we don't have any time for anything else.
And I said, I don't care. We have to get it.
Yeah, no, and we believed you. We did it.
We did believe you.
I can't believe we didn't get that.
Yeah.
It was just that one, not this section. It was just that one little walk from the refrigerator to the television that had to
past
be
the
picked
television.
up.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think when we were shooting the scene, it was late, and I think just.
And I don't know what made me realize it, because I'm not watching dailies like you guys are. I think I'm editing in my head, and I think.
I remember there was some little we were hitting snafus with that little blocking there. So I think you went home with it and kept thinking about it, and then you were like, I don't think we have it.
And when I sleep on it,
you didn't get the single on her,
right?
That's what it was, and you were like, no, we need it. We need it.
Yeah.
Has anyone given you any shit about the FAB?
No, I mean there's some stuff online, but. No.
That's kind of amazing. I feel like in the climate.
Yep.
I was very concerned about it when we were shooting it, and it's just, it gets.
Actually,
the reason
the original news footage we wanted to use, when I wrote to them, they said, we're sorry, we can't allow you to use used the
That's
clip for
Fleur.
that scene
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah.
About 40 degrees with a partly cloudy sky. Hopefully you're sitting in the sun.
This is such a contempt shot here.
Mhm.
It's just
Yeah.
draped in red and horizontal across the frame.
Yeah. And what I love is she looks and opens
Yeah.
her eyes.
Mhm.
Just
Here.
how you can just see the one eye.
Yeah, because there's nothing like a snow day, like waking up to snow. You know, it's like such a specific.
That is
feeling.
true.
This is Stephen Phelps and his team of magicians.
It's so good.
There's literally dudes on the roof
Yeah.
blowing snow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was we came at this with everything we had.
Yeah, they're so
I
good.
told Steven, I'm like, I'm not going to use these shots if it doesn't look 100%
Oh my
real to
God.
me.
Yeah. So this is the trailer.
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
we're-
yeah.
Well, I have behind the scenes videos of this, I think, where Steven is literally throwing snow out of the back of a truck.
Yeah, exactly. We
Like a madman.
we stole this. We were not allowed to be at the Chase Bank. We just
Yeah.
rolled up with a snow machine and
Yeah.
just shot it twice. And before the
Like
security,
literally there's a guy next to the camera on a ladder with a snow machine and
Yeah.
a generator.
and there's
And the security guard came
Yeah.
out moments before and told us, "Oh, you guys can't shoot here." We're like,
Yeah.
"No, we're just shooting on the
Yeah.
sidewalk."
yeah, but we sent our actors in there. And,
Yeah.
yeah. That was hairy.
I love this. Look, this straight to camera.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember when you told me you wanted to do that, Sean. I was so excited because it just felt like I feel like you've earned it,
Mhm.
at this moment, for
Mhm.
the whole film to culminate in this.
Well, I think it's, we've experimented with it with other films. I mean, Red Rocket, there was that subjective moment where, they're making eye contact directly into the lens, and it just called for it, They're connecting. There is that discomfort that comes when the audience feels like they're being looked at by the character.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
Characters
it's very
they've been
off-putting.
looking at, suddenly they're being looked at. And I think that really
That
does
acknowledgement.
something. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and
always
this
been very powerful.
like we were supposed to shoot this scene over a half day when it really snowed, but it didn't. So we had to bring in fake snow, but we still shot at the location. We had, snow blowers going, and we didn't have the street like shut down, and we were like letting cars pass every now and again. And
One of our snow machines broke.
yeah,
Yeah,
this was
it
like
was complicated.
crazy.
So we ended up shooting it over three
days.
days.
Yeah, sorry.
Not entire days, but partial.
Half days. Yeah, like
Yeah.
3 half days. But
And I remember the first day we shot like kind of up to the ring and maybe the wide shot, and then
mhm.
second day we kind of got a little bit more. I think
Yeah,
then
this is a
looking
different
looking at each other. I
That might
think,
be a different
this
location.
is
That's
yeah,
just
this
back.
is you're right. This is an entirely different building.
Yeah. So it was 2 days in front of the actual house, and then one day, like by the water somewhere on like a little dead end street, just so that we could eliminate the traffic of it all. But then there was like an old folks home there that like had a pick up and drop off. Remember, like so we had to deal with that.
Oh, and then the
Like,
sun came out.
The
Remember,
sun came
The
out.
sun was creeping on up
yeah,
the.
because it was initially blocked, and then we had to wait for it.
The sun
to
is
go
behind
the
a building
again.
behind camera, and then right as we were about to go on to the big shot, where she climbs on top of him,
Yeah.
the sun came out.
Yeah.
We had rehearsed it,
Yeah.
and we were ready to shoot the big finale oneer, and then the freaking sun comes out,
Yeah.
and we're like, "Mikey, I'm so sorry, but we have to wait till the sun goes to the other side of the building,
hmm
so we can once again have this indirect
Well,
light."
it was so last minute just to get that second location that I don't think we fully thought.
Well,
it through.
and then remember the cops were like,
Yeah.
your permit is up.
Yeah. Remember they were kicking
You guys
the can.
have to leave." And
I literally got on my hands and knees.
He really did. I remember.
I was like, please, sir, please.
yeah,
And I'm in the back seat there.
Yeah, just screaming.
So I wasn't really completely aware of what was happening that
that's
day.
Sean dislodging.
Exactly.
Yeah, I had to dislodge that because it was this old 83,
With a bad shoulder.
Mercedes that we found in South Carolina. We had to drive up and everything was broken in it. And I think it even stalled. I don't even know if we could turn the car on at some point, right?
There was something that happened. Yeah.
But we had a great, picture card coordinator.
Russ.
Yeah, he's incredible. He made sure those vehicles got to where they needed to go and ran when they needed to run.
Basically, my parents had one of these when I was growing up. And
Had to be this one.
And it's not because I have fond memories of this old diesel Mercedes. I actually have terrible memories of this old diesel Mercedes. And I remember the sounds when, especially that when he opens the car door, that little, that, and like everything else, like the windshield wipers and.
Yeah.
We discussed also how an old Mercedes just felt so Russian.
Oh, and of course, yes, the diesel engine.
The chug of that
The chug of the engine is so unique and so distinct. And I always knew that that's what would take us, that along with the window wipers would take us into the end credits with no music.
Yep. And
I
then
just knew this sound.
And then we for this scene in particular, I think a few of these, but this one in particular, I know we had our production designer Stephen Phelps sitting cross-legged on top of the car, just shaking a box of snow, just trying to get it to collect on those windows like that, so that it would
to
sort
completely
of block everything by the end.
Yeah.
Break the fourth wall. I'm in the back seat. Stephen Phelps is on the roof. Drew is behind the dolly here, pushing in.
And I'm on my hands and knees trying to get the cop to not kick us out. Like just total chaos.
Yeah, a lot of chaos went into this scene. I feel like that's kind of the case though for a lot of the movie.
Yeah.
If you knew what was happening always behind the camera, it just felt like we were just on the edge, teetering.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Every day.
It felt like the whole movie could fall apart.
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. Yeah. And it almost did every day. But
It's a miracle.
Our colorist put a lot of work into getting that tear to have just enough
Shine on it.
because it's tricky because she's kind of looking away from the light and everything.
Yep.
Just enough. Just
we
so that
could
you could
barely
pick it
see it on the monitor too, and Sean wasn't sure that we got it, and we had to like dissect it and zoom in on the monitor and make sure. And when we did get it, I was like, it was. But then we did a couple more takes, thinking we could
Get it again.
Yeah.
But no,
But
that
then we
was the
didn't
day.
get it again.
That was.
But
the
then
day.
you thought we didn't get it because
I
then
never
was like, no,
think
but
we
we
get
did get it. We just now we're trying to get it again.
It's like the helicopter shot. I wasn't convinced until like a day or two later.
It took a lot out of Mikey too. Every single
Yeah,
time.
she was
there
amazing.
Was we needed time for her to recuperate and sort of gather herself again. And then she was listening to this track.
Yeah, her father. It was
Her
like a
father.
voicemail from her father.
Yeah, so she
get
really
her
she had to get into
emotional.
the zone.
Then now total quiet. And I remember when we were choosing to do the credits, Sean was like, I was like, should we put like some sort of like white noise or like the whir of a camera or something? And Sean was like, no. Complete silence.
Well, don't the wipers kind of take?
Yeah, the wipers take us for
fade
at
out.
least
They
a
fade
few.
out. Yeah.
I don't think we mentioned budget, but we're a little bit over $6 million
Before
for a
the tax
film.
credit.
Yep. For a film to be shot in New York City for 40 days on 35 millimeter
And in Vegas.
and in Vegas, yeah, I think that's damn impressive.
It's a lot of days for the money that we had. But Sean from the beginning wanted to shoot film, shoot for perf, and shoot as many days as possible. So that right there is a huge chunk of your budget. So
yeah, it's all on the screen.
yeah.
But
Old
time
school,
is
yeah.
value is like everything. Time is everything. And I think that even though, yes, of course, I'm impressed when I hear, a film was shot in 12 days. It's definitely not ideal.
When you're rewriting and the story's evolving.
You want
and
more time.
This is when I started bawling at Cannes.
Oh.
I was definitely like in my seat in the quiet, just crying, and then the lights come on and there's a camera in front of me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. How long was our ovation?
10 minutes.
The thing is, like, they count it from when the lights come up, but people started clapping through this entire credit sequence, I feel.
No, they did, yeah.
Right? So, like, you kind of have to add that.
They cut it off, too, eventually. And
Thierry kind of reads the room and makes the call.
But it's funny because, like, you want to have the record, but then when you're in the moment, you're like, okay, stop clapping. This is so awkward.
Like, enough
I'm
already.
done with this.
No, I actually remember it felt because we were in this pocket. Sean actually turned to me at the end and he was like, well, that's
the same with Red Rocket. Remember with Red Rocket,
Yeah.
I turned to you and I said, okay, we're about to be booed.
Wait, let's wait. We got Booney coming up.
Oh.
Yes.
Just got to call him out.
Yeah.
There
No, thank you. My mom actually said it was really nice.
Of course.
That was Alex's idea.
Yeah.
We were like, of
Sean's
course.
from Starlet.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Hope you enjoyed.